Chapter 301. The royal family's hunting grounds were located on the outskirts of the capital city. It covered a large area, covering 2 mountains. Chu Xiaoyang and Chen Ning left the king's palace early in the morning. Bringing a group of servants, they headed to the outskirts of the capital city. The 2 of them were riding on the jade flower horse and the date red horse, walking side by side. Chu Xiaoyang was wearing a purple robe that made his figure seem even taller. Riding on the jade flower horse, he looked like he was flying, looking like jade. He won the praise of the citizens on both sides of the street. Chen Ning was wearing the light blue hunting clothes that the eldest princess had given her. Her face was covered with a veil, which caused the surrounding people to talk about her. It's been said that the Dingyuan princess is an ugly monster. Seeing it today, it seems like it's true. That's right. Otherwise, why would she wear a veil and not dare to see people? She really is ugly. AI. It's a pity that the handsome King Ding Yuan has married such an ugly woman as his princess. The discussions of the crowd inevitably reached Chu Xiaoyang's ears. He who was in high spirits was instantly filled with shame and anger. He fiercely glared at Chen Ning beside him. "Take off your veil." "All right." Chen Ning was very straightforward. She reached out and took off her veil. She never thought that the discussions around her would become even louder. She really is ugly. Her face is even uglier than a monkey's, but Chu Xiaoyang's face turned green with anger. He stared at Chen Ning's red and white face and said, "Chen Ning, can you not put that mess on your face? Your Highness, this princess is dressed up for this big hunt and spent an entire 4 hours on it. This princess thinks it looks good, but if your Highness doesn't like it, you don't have to look." Chen Ning casually shrugged her shoulders. After she took off her veil, she looked left and right in an unrestrained manner, earning a wave of boos. "Put on the veil." Chu Xiaoyang felt like his face was so hot that he could make a pancake on it. "I'll wear it just because you want me to? What do you think I am? Your maid?" Chen Ning raised her brows. Seeing that Chu Xiaoyang's nose was crooked from his anger, she slowly put on her veil. Chu Xiaoyang's temples began to throb in pain. He angrily pulled on the horse's reins and squeezed the horse's stomach. The jade flower horse charged forward, leaving Chen Ning far behind. Chen Ning was not in a rush, as she slowly rode her date red horse forward. Even if Chu Xiaoyang ran faster, he would still be able to catch her. Sure enough, before she reached the gates of the hunting grounds, she could see Chu Xiaoyang's figure in the distance. "You're slower than a tortoise," he growled as she rode nearer. Chen Ning did not even look at him. She looked at the flags waving in the hunting ground, the strong horses, and the brave young men riding on the backs of the horses. It was very lively. She revealed a smile and praised. "Today is a good day of hunting." Chu Xiaoyang looked at the young men's faces, and he couldn't help clenching his fists. How many lifetimes has this ugly woman not seen a man before? Damn! Chen King. Chen Xiao, Chen of Chen Ning. The little eunuch in charge of welcoming them greeted them at the entrance of the hunting grounds. He led them into the hunting grounds to see the eldest princess. Chun of people of the Ling them in by the Chun of the king the crowd. In. She was riding on a tall, snow-white horse. Her bright red hunting clothes made her look spirited and full of heroic spirit. Beside her was a pure black horse with a young man wearing a snow-white robe. His face was as white as snow, and his face was like a painting. He was cold and elegant, just like a person from a painting. Chen Ning knew that the white-robed handsome young man was without a doubt Yi Tingxian. Chapter 302. Greetings to the eldest princess. Chu Xiaoyang and Chen Ning dismounted and walked into the crowd to greet the eldest princess. "Ninger, is that you? Why are you wearing that thing on your face? Come, meet my husband." The eldest princess ignored Chu Xiaoyang and waved at Chen Ning. Her face was filled with a smile, and her face was glowing. Chen Ning walked over with a smile and bowed to Yi Tingxian. "This one greets husband Yi." Yi Tingxian's face was cold as he sat on his horse. Other than the eldest princess, he ignored all the people trying to curry favor with him. At this time, he slightly lowered his eyes and looked at Chen Ning. He raised his hand and said, "No need to be so polite." He didn't like crowds, and he didn't like talking. These words were already a rare honor for him. The eldest princess jumped off her horse and held Chun-Ning's hand with an affectionate expression. Seeing this, the jaws of the surrounding noble juniors all dropped. They all wanted to flatter the eldest princess, but the eldest princess didn't care about them at all. Other than Yi Ting Xian, she didn't even show a smile to anyone. Who would have thought that when the Ding Yuan princess arrived, the eldest princess would change into a different person? Not only did she smile, she even held the princess' hand and whispered to her. Was there something wrong with her eyes, and was she seeing things? "Ninger, I heard that you made a bet with that stinky brat. Is this true?" The eldest princess pulled Chun-Ning to the side and asked with a worried expression. "It's true." Chun-Ning nodded with a smile. The eldest princess took in a cold breath and looked at her in disbelief. "You actually made this bet with him? Don't you know that this stinky brat knows how to use the cloud-piercing arrows? And the arrows don't miss?" "This I also know," Chun-Ning said with a smile. "Then you still made a bet with him? Aren't you going to lose without a doubt? What are you betting on? Tell this princess, what kind of treasure do you fancy?" Chun-Ning pointed at the date red horse behind her. "It's this horse. If I win, the horse will be mine. If I lose, I will have to kowtow to him and give up my position." When the eldest princess heard this, she flew into a rage. She forcefully swung the horse whip and scolded, "Shameless brat, daring to bully my sister. Ning, you don't need to worry. This princess will order you to cancel this bet. This stinky brat won't dare disagree." She angrily charged out to find Chu Xiaoyang, but Chun-Ning held her back with a smile. "Princess Royal, please don't be angry. I will definitely win this bet." "Ow! How will you win? Do you know the rules of the hunt? The one who shoots the most prey wins. There is no cheating. Although this princess is a noble princess, I can't be biased towards you. Eldest princess can be assured, I also know the rules. Since it's a bet, it has to be fair. I will make sure he loses convincingly." Chun-Ning smiled as she looked at Chu Xiaoyang not far away. "Are you sure you can win?" The eldest princess didn't believe it at all. "You, Chun, Ning Ning, Chun King, Chun, Chun Chun, Chun Chun Ning, Shi, Chun Shi Ning, Chun Ning, Chun." Does the eldest princess not believe in Ninger's archery skills? Chun-Ning smiled as she tried to keep her in suspense. "All right, since you say this, I'll believe you. But you don't need to be afraid. If you lose, and that stinky brat dares to bully you, I won't forgive him. I'll accept my loss." Chun-Ning said with a smile. "Eldest princess, it's getting late. We can start now." The eldest princess nodded. She jumped onto the white horse, and her phoenix eyes were filled with power as she looked over the crowd. Chapter 303. The eyes of the youths flashed with an excited glow as they all looked at the eldest princess. They saw the eldest princess slowly raise the horse whip in her hand and drop it down. The hunt begins. As soon as her voice fell, the youths on horseback charged out like wild horses. They carried their bows on their backs and rode their horses, charging into the forest and the hunting grounds. Chu Xiaoyang was the first to charge out. His purple robe fluttered in the wind as he rode his jade flower horse away, disappearing without a trace in the blink of an eye. There was only the eldest princess, Yi Ting Xian, and Chun-Ning left in the center of the field. "That stinky brat. He actually ran off without waiting for you. He really deserves to die." The eldest princess angrily swung her horse whip as she stared in the direction Chu Xiaoyang ran off in. Her heart was filled with regret towards Chun-Ning. She wanted to repay Chun-Ning, so she thought of this method to bring the two of them together, but she never thought that it would backfire. Seeing that Chu Xiaoyang was ignoring Chun-Ning, being so heartless, she was afraid that Chun-Ning would be sad. She pulled Chun-Ning's hand and said, "Ninger, come with me and Ting Xian. We'll go into the forest together. We can take care of each other." Chun-Ning shook her head with a smile and said, "Eldest princess, it's best if you go with husband Yi. Otherwise, if we catch some prey, others will say that the eldest princess is biased towards me." She jumped onto the date red horse, and with a clench of her legs, the date red horse followed behind everyone as they charged into the forest. This forest was very large, and the trees were very dense. It was a good time for Prey to move out. She was already lagging behind the others, and by the time she entered the forest, the youths who were fighting to be the first had already disappeared. The trees covered the sky, and it was as if she was the only person left in this world. Ning took the bow from the back of the horse and took out a golden feather arrow. The arrow shaft was wrapped in bronze, and there was a Ning word engraved on it. Spring was the season for wild beasts to move out, and adding in a large amounts of prey in the hunting grounds, there were chickens, rabbits, and other small beasts everywhere in the forest. She was not in a rush to hunt, as she leisurely rode her horse through the forest. The competition time was 8 hours, so she still had a lot of time to waste. Chu Xiaobai did not come back to help her like he said. Ning knew that he was delayed by something, but it was a good thing she had already thought of a way to win. She had even rejected Mo Chuan's request to secretly help her. To win, not only did she have to rely on herself, she had to win beautifully. Idiot, you haven't even caught a rabbit and you want to win against this king? In your dreams. With the sound of horse hooves, the jade flower horse flew over as fast as lightning. The young man on the horse was wearing a fluttering purple robe and had a handsome face. It was Chu Xiaoyang. The horse's bow was filled with prey, rabbits, deer, and pheasants. Each prey had a white feather arrow stuck in its fatal spot, and the arrow shaft was engraved with the word Yang. He coldly looked at Chen Ning and then rode past her without any hesitation. He was indeed the godly arrow king that everyone praised. He had only entered the forest for a short while, but he had already returned with a bountiful harvest. There was so much prey that even his horse could not carry them all. Chen Ning knew that he was going back to the hunting grounds, so she smiled until her eyes narrowed. She followed the horse's instructions and gradually entered the depths of the forest. She saw a huge tree not far ahead. It was as thick as 2 people wrapping their arms around it. The trunk was straight, and there were many small blue flowers blooming on it. She urged her horse forward and reached out to pluck a flower to wear. Suddenly, she heard a loud shout behind her. Chapter 304. Chen Ning turned around and saw that Chu Xiaoyang had unknowingly appeared not far behind her. His eyes were staring right at her with a ferocious expression. He slowly raised the iron bow in his hand and took out a white feather arrow. He slowly pulled the bow and pointed the arrow at her. "Don't move," he shouted in a sharp voice. His expression actually contained a trace of nervousness. The surroundings were completely silent. There was only the sound of the wind blowing through the forest leaves. Chen Ning revealed a smile. She slowly took back the hand that was picking the flower and fixed her hair. Then she said as if nothing had happened, "Your timing is very good. There is no one here, so it's perfect for you to silence them." Chu Xiaoyang gritted his teeth, and his fingers suddenly loosened. The white feather arrow let out a sharp whistle as it cut through the air. It brought with it a chilling aura as it flew at her. She did not even have time to react before the white feather arrow flew past her ear. With a duo sound, it deeply pierced into the tree behind her. What did he mean by this? Was he deliberately trying to scare her? Chen Ning knit her brows and saw Chu Xiaoyang throw away his bow. He jumped off his horse and threw himself at her. He grabbed her arm and pulled her off the horse. "You!" She did not even have time to say anything before he grabbed her and rolled several times on the ground. When they stopped, the 2 of them were in a very sorry state. Their hair and bodies were covered in dirt and grass. "Chu Xiaoyang, what are you?" Chen Ning did not even finish before Chu Xiaoyang covered her mouth. His eyes were tightly locked in front of him, and his muscles were tightly stretched, just like a cheetah waiting to pounce. She immediately realized that something had happened. Following his gaze, she broke out in a cold sweat, and the hairs on her arms stood up. He saw that on the tree full of blue flowers in front of him, something had suddenly appeared. It was wriggling, and the blue flowers moved with it. Taking a closer look, they weren't blue flowers at all. They were actually 2 giant snakes covered in blue spots. One of the snakes had a white feather arrow stuck in it and was nailed to the tree. The other giant snake was spitting out its long tongue and making a hissing sound. The light coming from the snake's eyes made her tremble. "Snake!" She was not afraid of the heavens or earth, but she was afraid of this kind of soft and slippery creature, especially this kind of terrifying giant snake. Normal snakes were not poisonous, but this giant snake in front of her had a triangular head and its body was covered in blue spots, so it must be extremely poisonous. Suddenly, there was a flash of blue light in front of her, and the giant snake shot out like lightning. It opened its mouth full of poisonous fangs and spat out a long blood-red tongue as it viciously bit at Chen Ning. Chu Xiaoyang's left hand suddenly reached out and lured the giant snake to bite him. The snake changed its target and bit his left arm, sinking its teeth deep into his flesh. At this time, his right hand came out, and with a muffled pung sound, the giant snake's head hit his head. This punch was very powerful, and the giant snake's head was immediately flattened. It lay limply on the ground, motionless. Escaping from death, Chen Ning let out a long sigh of relief. Looking down, she saw that there were several deep teeth marks on Chu Xiaoyang's left arm. It had already turned purple and was currently leaking black blood. "You?" She bit her lip and couldn't say anything for a moment. If he hadn't intentionally lured the snake to bite her, she would have been the one being bitten. Chapter 305. Chu Xiaoyang bent over to pick up the longbow on the ground. Before he could stand up, he gave a violent shudder. The snake venom filled his body, and his body swayed. With a put-on sound, he was like a piece of wood as he fell to the ground, sprawling out on his back. The position he fell in was too ugly. He struggled to stand up, but the snake venom acted too quickly. In this short amount of time, his four limbs had already turned numb, and he couldn't even move a finger. Chu Xiaoyang. A shadow suddenly appeared in front of him. Chen Ning walked in front of him, and her bright eyes looked at him without blinking. "Why did you save me? Stop talking nonsense." The only thing he could move was his tongue, but it was not listening to him anymore. "Come here, take out the short knife on my waist." Although he could not move, his sharp aura did not decrease at all. Chen Ning touched his waist and took out a snow-white knife. "I'll give you two choices now. 1. Stab this knife into my heart. 2. Use it to cut off my left arm. Choose for yourself now," he shouted in a sharp voice. "What do you mean?" She looked at him with a frown. "Either you kill this king, or you cut off this king's arm. However, this king is warning you. As long as this king lives, this king will torture you until you die. Chen Ning, if you're a smart person, you should know what it means to end everything once and for all." Chu Xiaoyang revealed a fiendish smile, making his handsome face become twisted. Did he want her to stab him to death with a single stab? Chen Ning slowly raised the knife. Chu Xiaoyang's eyes did not even blink as he revealed a strange fiendish smile on his face. This smile was already frozen on his face because the muscles on his face had already become stiff. Her knife suddenly fell down, but it fell on his left arm. She quickly cut the place where the poisonous fangs had bitten twice, and a large amount of poisonous blood began to pour out. "Chu Xiaoyang, if you want to die, then I won't let you die. You want to torture me? All right, then you can continue living. We'll see who tortures who to death." She said these words through gritted teeth. As she placed her mouth on his wound and forcefully sucked on the poisonous blood. She sucked and spat out. The stench of the poisonous blood was pungent, but she continued to suck in mouthful after mouthful. Only when the blood flowing out of his wound had turned bright red did she raise her head and wipe away the black blood at the corner of her mouth with a look of disgust. "It stinks. Chu Xiaoyang, did you grow up eating shit? Why is your blood so smelly?" Chu Xiaoyang's eyes turned red as he stared at her. If he could still move, he would not hesitate to strangle this woman to death. Her tongue was even more venomous than the blue flower giant snake. The veil on her face had already fallen off during the tumbling just now, and what he saw was her face covered in thick rouge and makeup. The corners of her mouth were stained with purplish black blood, and her long hair was messy and stained with dirt and grass. She looked dirty and ugly. Although she had sucked out Chu Xiaoyang's poisonous blood, the poison had already entered his body. If she did not have the antidote, he would die without a doubt. Although she had sucked out Chu Xiaoyang's poisonous blood, the poison had already entered his body. If she did not have the antidote, he would die without a doubt. As long as there was a place with poisonous snakes, there would be an antidote within 7 steps. Chapter 306. Could this ash-white mushroom be the antidote to the snake's poison? She didn't care if it was or not. She picked up a few mushrooms and returned to Chu Xiaoyang's side, directly shoving them into his mouth. Eat it. Woo woo woo. I'm not eating it. Chu Xiaoyang forcefully gritted his teeth. His eyes seemed like they were about to burst into flames as he angrily stared at Chen Ning. What did this ugly girl think he was? A rabbit? She was actually giving him raw mushrooms. Rabbits did not eat mushrooms. Not to mention that he hated mushrooms the most. You're not eating it? You have to eat it even if you don't want to. Chen Ning actually understood his meaning. His muscles were stiff and his teeth were not tightly clenched. She pinched his chin and shoved the mushrooms into his mouth one by one. Chu Xiaoyang's cheeks puffed up and his mouth was filled with raw mushrooms. He was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. Why are you staring at me? Quickly swallow it. These mushrooms are the antidote to the snake's poison. If you don't eat it, you'll die. Chen Ning did not want to explain, but when she looked down and saw his puffed-up face, he looked like an angry toad. Her mood suddenly became much better. So, she was trying to save him. The anger in Chu Xiaoyang's eyes slightly extinguished, but quickly burned again. This damn girl, she had stuffed his mouth full of mushrooms. How could he swallow it? He did not even have the strength to chew. Hey, why aren't you eating it? Are you dead? Chen Ning waited for a while and saw that he was still puffing up his cheeks. She poked his cheeks in confusion and found that his skin was still warm and elastic. He wasn't dead. Woo 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 woo. You're the one who's dead. Chu Xiaoyang angrily cursed in his heart. Oh, I understand, you can't chew it. Chen Ning patted her forehead and suddenly realized something. She dug the mushrooms out of his mouth one by one. Forget it. Seeing that you saved me earlier, I'll be a good person to the end. This miss will chew it up and feed it to you. She was disgusted that the mushrooms in his mouth were covered in his saliva, so she went to pick some new mushrooms and chewed them up. Then she went to the horse's back to get a water bag. Chu Xiaoyang, these mushrooms might have antidotes, but they might also have a strong poison. If you don't eat them, you'll die. If you eat them, you might also die. Chen Ning's mouth was filled with mushroom dregs as she spoke in an unclear voice. When he heard this, he was so angry that he almost exploded again. What the F*** are you talking about? Wait a minute. She was going to feed him? You're not going to feed me mouth to mouth, are you? His eyes widened in horror as he saw her face slowly coming closer. I'd rather die, he shouted angrily. Dream on. Chen Ning understood the meaning in his eyes. She spat out the mushroom in her mouth onto her hand and forcefully spat out. This miss thinks you're dirty. She pinched his chin and stuffed the mushroom bits into his mouth. She picked up the water bag and poured several mouthfuls of water into his mouth. Cough, cough, cough. Chu Xiaoyang choked on the water and began to violently cough. His eyes popped out and his face turned completely red as he stared at Chen Ning without blinking. This damned woman. How dare she feed him something she had chewed? She thought he was dirty? When he thought about how the food he had just swallowed had come out of her mouth after chewing it, he felt nauseous. Cuh. He really wanted to vomit. Chapter 307. She picked a large handful of mushrooms this time and stuffed them all into her mouth. Then she spat out a large pile of mushroom dregs. Chu Xiaoyang stared at the mushroom dregs in her hand and forcefully gritted his teeth. He couldn't eat it. He couldn't eat it no matter what. Chen Ning completely ignored his resisting eyes. She opened his chin and stuffed the mushroom dregs into his mouth before pouring down another bag of water. Cuh. Chu Xiaoyang coughed until tears came out. If he could move, he would have killed her without any hesitation. Chen Ning had really stumbled into this by accident. The ash-white mushrooms really were the antidote to the snake poison. Chu Xiaoyang felt his numb limbs slowly regain some feeling, but it was only feeling. If he wanted to move a finger, it would be very hard. But he understood in his heart that his life had been saved. But he did not feel any gratitude towards Chen Ning at all. Thinking of the mushroom she had fed him mixed with her saliva, he was filled with shame and anger. His eyes wished he could poke a hole in Chun-Ning's face. Look at your disdainful expression. Is it because you feel uncomfortable eating this princess's saliva? Chun-Ning hugged her knees as she sat beside him, looking at him with a smile. She saw the anger in his eyes and quickly understood the meaning in his eyes. Chu Xiaoyang's face turned purple like an eggplant. Could this ugly woman not mention the word saliva? What? You don't want others to know about this. Chun-Ning blinked and once again guessed what he was thinking. Chu Xiaoyang tightly pursed his lips and forcefully looked to the side, not looking at her at all. Whoa, of course you don't want others to know. All right, I won't tell anyone, but I have a request. Chu Xiaoyang's eyes turned back, and he suspiciously stared at her. I want to win. Chun-Ning raised her brows and said word for word. Woo-woo, in your dreams. He glared at her. This isn't up to you to decide. It's up to me now. Chun-Ning patted the dirt off her body and stood up. She giggled as she walked beside the jade flower horse. The horse's bow was filled with game, and she unceremoniously took it all off. Chu Xiaoyang stared at her without blinking. He did not understand what she was doing. Z, your arrows truly do not miss. You are truly worthy of being called the Divine Arrow King by everyone. Chun-Ning smiled as she praised him, but when Chu Xiaoyang heard it, it was filled with mockery. Then he saw Chun-Ning pull out the white feather arrow from an antelope and insert the golden feather arrow with the Ning word engraved on it. He immediately understood what she meant. Woo, 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 woo. He was furious. How could there be such a shameless woman in this world? He actually thought of this kind of method to replace the beam with the pillar. She actually dared to openly take his prey as her own in front of his eyes. What eye is? Of course I'm hunting. Could it be that your eyes are for breathing? Chun-Ning said with a smile that angered people to death. The most annoying thing was that every time she pulled out a white feather arrow and replaced it with a gold feather arrow, she would first glance at Chu Xiaoyang and then slowly say something. Ching, 3, 5. All of them were shot by me. Chu Xiaoyang's lungs were about to explode, but he could not move at all. He could not use any strength at all. Chapter 308. Chun-Ning placed a large pile of golden arrows on the date red horse's back. Of course, she also left a few normal pheasants and rabbits for Chu Xiaoyang. Otherwise, the respected highness with the title of Divine Archer would not be able to catch a single prey, which would raise everyone's suspicions. Chun-Ning raised the dagger again, and the blade glowed. She rubbed Chu Xiaoyang's cheeks. She revealed a calm smile and said, Are you very angry? Woo. Being angry will make your blood flow faster. The poison in your body has not been cleared yet, so being angry will only harm you. Didn't you just lose a horse to me? You wouldn't be so stingy that you can't even lose a horse, right? She was in a good mood, but seeing Chu Xiaoyang's eyes roll back from her anger and how he was exhaling more than he was inhaling, she was worried that he would be angered to death. After all, he had just saved her, so she could only close her mouth. She saw that his arm was still bleeding, so she cut off a piece of his clothes with the dagger. She wrapped it around his wound and tied it tightly. All right, this way you won't die from bleeding too much. She clapped her hands and said. Chu Xiaoyang's brows jumped up. She was still cursing him to die. Could this ugly woman shut her mouth? He tightly closed his eyes and did not even look at her. His nostrils were still breathing heavily. No matter what she did, he would never be grateful to her. Whoa, it's getting late. We should go back. Chun-Ning looked up at the light coming through the gaps in the leaves and estimated the time. It seemed like they had been here for quite some time already. She strenuously helped him up, using almost all of her strength to get him onto the horse's back, and then she slung him over the jade flower horse's shoulder like a ragged sack. You're so heavy. Why are you heavier than a pig? She wiped the sweat off her forehead and complained in a snappy voice. Woo, 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 woo. You dare call this king a pig? Chu Xiaoyang wanted to move his mouth, but he found that his tongue was like a piece of wood, not feeling anything at all. His stomach was stuck to the hard saddle, and his head was low. His blood was flowing backwards, and he felt dizzy. Even if he wanted to speak, he couldn't. Ning jumped onto the date red horse and held the jade flower horse's reins with one hand. After identifying the direction, she slapped Chu Xiaoyang's raised butt and shouted, "Come with me." She actually dared to hit his butt. Chu Xiaoyang's face instantly turned red and his eyes popped out. He almost spat out a mouthful of blood. Woo 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 woo. Ning led the jade flower dog through the lush forest. There were no roads in the forest. Chu Xiaoyang came here every year to hunt, but this forest was very vast. Even he did not know where they were or how far they were from the center of the hunting grounds. But Ning did not hesitate at all when she found the direction. It was as familiar as if she had returned to her own home. An hour later, they had already passed through the forest. In the distance, they could see banners fluttering in the wind and laughter and clamor. Many youths that had just returned from hunting were happily gathered together, showing off their archery skills and prey. Ning led the jade flower horse into the hunting ground. Look, the Dingyuan princess is back. There seems to be a large fellow on the horse beside her. Perhaps it's a large wild boar. That's not a large wild boar. It's more like King Dingyuan. Chapter 309. Chu Xiaoyang was ashamed. Every time he went hunting in the past, he would ride the jade flower horse and return with a full load of prey, winning everyone's praise. But today he was being carried on the back of a horse like a wild boar. He had lost all his face. He lowered his head, wishing he could dig his head into the ground. Ning, father hates you to death. Ninger, why did you only come back now? Where's that stinky brat, Chu Xiaoyang? Xiaoyang, what happened to him? The eldest princess rode her white horse through the crowd of youths and came out to greet them. Although she was angry at Chu Xiaoyang for being heartless, he was still her blood-related nephew, and they were connected by blood. Seeing Chu Xiaoyang not moving at all on the back of the horse, she revealed a look of worry. Woo! He was bitten by a snake in the forest and was poisoned. Although I found some mushrooms for him to eat, temporarily suppressing the poison in his body, he still can't move. The eldest princess should quickly find a doctor to treat him. Ning's face did not turn red as she spoke in a calm voice. Not a single word she said was false, but when Chu Xiaoyang heard this, he was filled with rage. If it wasn't to save an ugly monster like you, father wouldn't have been bitten by a snake. Chu Xiaoyang was carried into the tent, and the accompanying doctor quickly came to take his pulse. Then he gave him a prescription to clear the poison. After taking the medicine, he fell into a deep sleep. Doctor, is there anything wrong with him? The eldest princess stood in front of the bed and looked at him with a worried expression. Reporting to the eldest princess, His Highness' body is strong. Although the snake poison is strong, the princess has already fed His Highness the right antidote, so most of the poison has already been removed. After taking this humble minister's medicine, when His Highness wakes up, the poison in his body will be completely cleared. But for the sake of His Highness' body, this humble minister suggests that he rest in bed for 2 days. The imperial physician answered respectfully and bragged about his medical skills without leaving a trace. All right, thank you for the trouble. Go and receive your reward. The eldest princess' heart fell back into her stomach as she sent the doctor away. When she heard that Chu Xiaoyang was fine, her anger towards him rose again. She glared at the unconscious Chu Xiaoyang on the bed, and then turned around to grab Ning's hand. Ninger, it's all thanks to you saving this stinky brat's life. Otherwise, he would have already gone to hell. When he wakes up, I will fiercely scold him. If he doesn't treat you well, this princess will tell my royal brother to divorce that concubine and punish him by never taking another concubine. He will only recognize you as his wife in the future. Ning was shocked, and she shook her hands. She could not accept the eldest princess' kind intentions. She did not want to be trapped by Chu Xiaoyang's side for the rest of her life. What? You're not willing? The eldest Chen's face. I'm not willing. Ning gave a light cough and said with a serious expression, Don't you want him to treat you wholeheartedly? As long as he divorces that concubine, he will only have you as his legal wife. Adding on the fact that you saved him, he will definitely treat you well. That stinky brat is not a heartless person. Chapter 310. You don't like him? In the past, you... The eldest princess hesitated. I was blind in the past. That's why I liked him. Now that he has a woman he loves and has abandoned me, I, Chun Ning, am a person with integrity. If he doesn't want me, then I don't care about him. If the eldest princess really wants to help Ning, I want to ask the eldest princess for a favor. Chun Ning looked at the eldest princess. Good. Well said. Ning, I really didn't misjudge you. Us women, why should we lower ourselves to men? The eldest princess raised her brows and patted her shoulder in praise. She said in a straightforward manner, just say whatever you want. As long as this princess can help, this princess will help you fulfill your wish. Chun Ning's words were to her liking, and she couldn't help but treat Chun Ning as a close friend. Yi Tingxian stood on the side without making a sound. His eyes lit up as he looked at the eldest princess, and then he gave a slight nod. He had already guessed what Chun Ning wanted, only his eyes fell onto Chu Xiaoyang's face on the bed, and his two handsome brows slightly knit. This King Ding Yuan, he did not seem like a cold and emotionless person. Could there be some secret behind this? Ning, I wants to ask the eldest princess. I want to separate from Chu Xiaoyang, and I asked the eldest princess to bring Ning into the palace to see the emperor. Ning wants to ask the emperor for a decree to divorce my husband. Chun Ning's eyes were filled with determination as she said this without any hesitation. What did you say? You want to separate from him? You want to divorce your husband? The eldest princess was shocked as she looked at Chun Ning with a look of disbelief. She saw Chun Ning's determined expression and knew that she was not joking. She was serious. But Ning, this is an impossible matter. If you want to separate, perhaps the emperor will agree, but divorce your husband? There has never been such a precedent in my West Chu country. Although he doesn't treat you well, you can forget about divorcing your husband. Divorcing him is the same as divorcing the royal family's face. My royal brother will definitely not agree. She gave a sigh as she spoke. Her words were filled with sincerity. If these words were said by someone else, she would have already been enraged. But she truly liked Chun Ning. That was why she said these heartfelt words to her. Chun Ning's heart was filled with gratitude as she nodded and said, Many thanks for the eldest princess reminder. Since it's like this, then I'll separate from him. Can the eldest princess bring me into the palace to see the emperor? Her eyes flashed with an expectant light. She knew that Chu Xiaoyang would never bring her into the palace. Only the eldest princess could help her with this matter. She believed that she could convince the emperor to agree to her request. Although she had never met the emperor before, she had heard of him. For example, the marriage between her and Chu Xiaoyang was decided by the emperor's personal decree. This showed that the emperor valued her father, so he fulfilled her wish. Since the emperor could agree to her marriage for General Shan, he should also agree to her divorce for her father's sake. Chapter 311. Chun Ning's eyes looked over at the silent Yi Tingxian beside the eldest princess. With a faint smile, she said, Ning is bold and wants to ask the eldest princess a question. If there is a day that husband Yi marries a concubine, what will you do? If he regretted it and changed his mind, would you still reconcile with him? Of course not. The eldest princess blurted out. Her phoenix eyes glared at Yi Tingxian. If he dares to marry a concubine, this princess will immediately divorce him. Yi Tingxian's face turned slightly red, and a trace of anger flashed across his brows. Cuckoo! Chun Ning quickly pouted her lips at the eldest princess. The eldest princess finally realized her slip of the tongue and immediately said, Of course, Tingxian will not betray me. He will definitely not marry a concubine. This princess is very lucky, being able to meet a person like him who treats this princess wholeheartedly. Her flattery was just right. Chun Ning couldn't help secretly finding this funny. Yi Tingxian gave a snort and whispered in the eldest princess' ear, Next time you speak without thinking, this prince will also divorce you. This sentence was so low that only the eldest princess could hear it. His words could be considered disgraceful. But not only was the eldest princess not angry, it was like she had eaten a spoonful of honey. The man she liked should be like this. He definitely wouldn't follow her orders just because of her identity as the eldest princess, not giving her any face. Cuckoo. Chen Ning looked at the eldest princess and Yi Tingxian's affectionate and sweet appearance. She was happy that the two of them were in love, but she couldn't help reminding the eldest princess that there was an outsider like her in front of them. The eldest princess finally came back to her senses. Her heroic face had a blush that added a bit of charm to it. Ning, I understand your meaning. Since you've already made your decision, this princess will of course think of a way to fulfill your heart. There was still a bit of regret on her face as she stared at Chu Xiaoyang on the bed and said, "It's all this brat's fault, letting down a good girl like you." Chu Xiaoyang's eyes were closed, but his brows moved a bit, but he was still in a deep sleep. The eldest princess thought about it and said to Chen Ning, "It isn't hard for you to enter the palace. Every year on the 10th day of the 4th month, the palace will hold a flower banquet, inviting all the ministers and families to the palace to enjoy the flowers. This princess will send a decree this year and have Chu Xiaoyang bring you into the palace. This brat won't dare disobey. When you see the emperor, you can act accordingly. This princess will be by your side, and this princess will help, so your wish will be fulfilled." Chen's heart burst with joy. She bowed and said, "Ning's heart, you don't have to thank this princess yet. There's still a few days. I hope you can think about it carefully. After all, this is related to your life's happiness." The eldest princess looked at her, and a trace of regret flashed in her eyes. Chen Ning smiled and changed the topic. "Eldest princess, I wonder who will be the winner of this year's hunt. Ning wants to know, did I bring back more prey, or did he bring back more?" She looked at Chu Xiaoyang with a smile. "It's lucky you reminded me. This princess forgot about this matter. Come, let's go take a look. This princess thinks that you will definitely win. Thanks to your reminder, this princess had forgotten about this important matter. Come, let's go out and take a look. This princess thinks that you will definitely win." The eldest princess pulled her hand, and with a laugh, they walked out of the tent. Yi Tingxian slightly shook his head at Chu Xiaoyang. With a sigh, he also left. Yi Tingxian slightly shook his head at Chu Xiaoyang. With a sigh, he also left. Chapter 312. The results of this spring hunt shocked everyone's eyes. The one who shot the most prey was not the divine archer king Ding Yuan, but rather it was the new martial scholar. That martial scholar almost did not dare believe that he had obtained this glory. There was also another thing that made everyone's eyes explode. After counting the prey, the Ding Yuan princess had actually shot more prey than King Ding Yuan. This meant that everyone's bet had been lost. The bets that everyone had placed in the casino had all been lost. Asterisk. Young Miss, this servant. This servant has never seen this many silver bills before. When Xiaoru saw the silver bills that Xia he had won from the casino piling up on the table, she almost screamed out loud. She never would have dreamed that 4,000 silver coins would turn into 40,000 in one night. That's right, we have money now. After we leave this place, we'll use this money to buy a large house and hire a few maids. We'll be able to live comfortably. When Chen Ning thought of how she would be able to leave this cage after the flower viewing banquet, her mood was as good as the sky outside. "Leave this place?" Xiaoru said in a surprised voice. "Young miss, you're saying that we're leaving the king's palace?" "That's right," Chen Ning said with a smile. "What? You're reluctant?" Xiaoru shook her head. "This servant has long wanted to leave this place. No matter where the young miss goes, this servant will follow you. No matter what decision the young miss makes, this servant will support you." Chun Tao and Xia he looked at each other before kneeling down in front of Chen Ning. "Princess consort, if you want to leave this place, please take these servants with you." Chen Ning slightly looked down at the two of them. "What? You want to leave with me? It's not that I don't want to take you with me, but you're people of the King Ding Yuan Palace. Even if I want to take you with me, I can't do anything about it." The two maids begged, "Princess consort, if you leave, there will be no place for these servants in this palace. That concubine Chun will not let us go, So I asked the princess consort to be merciful and save these servants. Hearing this, Chen Ning couldn't help being moved. She thought of Chun Bai-yun's vicious personality. After she left, she would definitely take out her anger on these two maids. Perhaps she would torture them until they begged for death. Ever since these two maids have been by her side, they could be said to be loyal and devoted. After she left the palace, she needed these kind of loyal and brave people to work for her. I have a plan for this matter, but you have to keep it a secret and not say a single word to anyone. Can you do this? Her eyes sparkled as she looked at the two maids. We servants can do it. Please rest assured, princess consort. If we servants leak it out, then I ask princess consort to pull out our tongues. Chun Tao and Xiaohe looked up and said in a firm voice. Chun Tao and Xiaohe said this in. The two maids revealed a look of joy. They kowtowed to Chen Ning again before standing up. They knew that since Chen Ning said this, she was agreeing to take them away. That's right. Xiaohe, go and ask around. Has Chu Xiaoyang's poison been cured? Chen Princess Consort Chu Dragon King has was. Chapter 313. Xiaohe replied, This servant has not seen bodyguard He all day, but this servant has heard that His Highness woke up not long after returning to the palace. He is currently recovering in the intoxicated flower pavilion, and the concubine consort Chun is taking care of him. This Mo Chuan, he was always like a dragon whose head was never seen. When she needed him, he would never be there. He even said that he would protect her and not let a single hair fall on her head. If a man's words could be trusted, even a sow could climb a tree. Chun Ning angrily gritted her teeth. I understand. Help me boil some water. I want to take a bath. She was pulled off the horse by Chu Xiaoyang and rolled several times on the ground. Her head was covered in dirt and grass, making her feel very uncomfortable. She couldn't wait to take a bath. Soaking in the steaming wooden tub, she let out a long sigh of relief. Her dark cloud-like hair floated in the water, covering her snow-white shoulders. She sent Xiao Ru and the other maids out and sat alone in the tub. Leaning her head back, she picked up a handkerchief from the water and placed it over her face. Closing her eyes, she gave a faint sigh. She did not know why she was sighing, but the scene in the forest flashed in front of her eyes. Chu Xiaoyang drew his bow, and his eyes revealed a cold glow. With a shio sound, the arrow flew through the air. But the target was not her, but rather the giant snake on the tree behind her. Not only did his arrow not kill her, it saved her. But why? Didn't he hate her to the bone, wishing for her to die? If she died, his beloved Chun Bai-yun would become his legal wife. Moreover, in that situation, even if he did not make a move, she would have been bitten to death by the snake. He could have just stood by and watched. He could have left her to fend for herself. But he had unexpectedly saved her. Another person silently appeared in the room. That person stood behind Chun Ning. His eyes revealed a cold glow as he stared at her back without blinking. Steam rose and white mist filled the air. Her shoulders were slightly exposed, and her hair was like a cloud. There was a handkerchief covering her face, and it seemed like she had fallen asleep. Chu Xiaoyang, why did you save me? Chun Ning closed her eyes and softly said to herself, This king has always been asking himself, why did I save you? A cold voice suddenly came from behind her. Following that, she felt her throat tighten as a hand tightly gripped her slender neck. Chun Ning, this king regrets it. Now this king wants you to die. His grip on her neck tightened, and her head was pressed into the water. A large amount of hot water poured into her nose and mouth. Gulp, gulp. One bubble after another floated to the surface of the water. She struggled with all her might, but her little bit of strength was like an ant trying to shake a tree to him. He pressed her down hard and pushed her head deeper into the water. Her lungs were about to burst. Her vision began to turn black, and her eyes began to fill. Chen's voice. Was she going to die? Chun Ning revealed a bitter smile. If she knew this earlier, she wouldn't have saved him out of kindness. The long day, Chun. Chen's heart. Chen's kings long ago. He's guard He Ning's mind. He Chen's his eyes. Chun Ning's. And Chu Xiaoyang's face was filled with hatred. His eyes were cold and cruel, without a single trace of emotion. He wanted her dead with all his heart. Chapter 314. At this moment, Chu Xiaoyang seemed to see himself struggling in the water in the past, that helpless and hopeless self. Did he want to kill her? Did he really want her to die by his hands? Perhaps she really deserved to die, but he found that he could not do it. Chen Ning, if you want to separate from this king, don't even think about it. This king won't kill you. This king will continue to torture you. This king will make you wish you were dead every day. He suddenly took back his hand and coldly said this. He did not even look at Chen Ning in the bathtub as he jumped out the window without looking back. Oh, Chen Ning popped her head out of the water and took in a long breath. She took in too much air and began to cough. She took a few breaths and looked around, finding that there was no one around. If it wasn't for the fact that the window was still slightly swaying, she would have suspected that she was having a nightmare. Chu Xiaoyang. She gritted her teeth and climbed out of the water naked. She quickly put on her clothes and wrapped her body tightly. Thinking of the scene just now, she couldn't help but shiver. If he hadn't let go of her at the last moment, she would have become a corpse soaking in the bathtub. But he clearly hated her, so why didn't he kill her? She suddenly thought of the words he said before he left and was suddenly enlightened. That's right, to him, this was just a game of cat and mouse. When a cat catches a mouse, it can't bear to kill it immediately. It always wants to torture it enough before eating the mouse. He was the cat, and she was the mouse. If he did not play to his heart's content, how could he let her die like this? Very good. Chu Xiaoyang, if you want to torture me, then I'll fight you to the end. I won't rest until I die. She forcefully grinded her teeth and revealed an unyielding gaze. Chu Xiaoyang, who had not gone far, did not know why, but his heart suddenly skipped a beat, and his footsteps actually stopped. He quickly quickened his footsteps and disappeared without a trace. Returning to the intoxicated flower pavilion, Chen Baiyun heard his footsteps and quickly came out to greet him. She had a worried look on her face as she softly complained, "Your Highness, this minister's concubine only took a nap, and when I opened my eyes, you disappeared. The doctor said that you had to stay in bed for 2 days, so why did you go out? What if you catch another cold?" She suddenly realized that the front of his shirt was wet, and there was a faint fragrance on it. This smell was very familiar. A figure suddenly flashed in her mind, and her face couldn't help but turn pale. Chu Xiaoyang immediately noticed her strange expression. He hugged her and said, "Yin'er, what's wrong? Do you feel uncomfortable?" Chen Baiyin gave an sound and then said with a frown, "My stomach isn't feeling well. Imperial physician, quickly summon the imperial physician." Chu Xiaoyang's face was filled with nervousness. Without saying a word, he picked her up and walked into the room. "Your Highness, there's no need to be this nervous. Yin'er is fine." Chen Baiyun's heart was filled with sweetness. She could see from Chu Xiaoyang's eyes that he still cared about her. "Your complexion has changed. How can you be fine? It's this king that made you worry today, causing you to not have a good rest, causing your body to feel unwell. Someone quickly call the doctor." Chu Xiaoyang angrily roared out. He quickly walked over to the bed and carefully placed her on the bed, just like she was a fragile piece of porcelain. This kind of care made Chen Baiyun's heart filled with satisfaction and pride. Chapter 315. Him? What him? Chu Xiaoyang was a bit distracted, not understanding what Chen Baiyun was saying at all. "Your Highness." Chen Baiyun coquettishly looked at him. "What him?" "It's the child in Yin-Er's stomach, Your Highness' unborn son." "Oh." Chu Xiaoyang's expression relaxed. He stroked Chen Baiyun's cheek and said in a soft voice, "This king cares about you the most. As long as you're safe, it's fine." Chen Baiyun's heart was a bit unhappy as she bit her lips. She wanted to use her words to draw Chu Xiaoyang's attention to the child in her stomach. She wanted to use this chance to ask Chu Xiaoyang for the title of successor for this unborn child, but his expression was very calm, as if he didn't care at all. This was also his child, so why did it seem like the only person he cared about was her, and not the child in her stomach? Chen Baiyun was a bit confused. She looked up and saw the young and handsome face in front of her, suddenly feeling relieved. He definitely never thought that he would have a child this soon. He never thought that he would become a father. In time, he would definitely fall in love with the child in her stomach. She had confidence in that. Your Highness, tonight, can you stay with Yina? Her eyes were filled with spring as she smiled at him. Of course. This king will accompany you every day and will never leave you. Chu Xiaoyang hugged her soft body and stroked her long hair, looking at her with a gentle expression. Under the red candlelight, her face was as clear as jade, with every frown and smile filled with charm. With such a lively and fragrant beauty in his arms. Moreover, she was also his unforgettable beloved. If he said that he was not moved, then he would not be a man. He remembered that the doctor had said that she could have sex after 4 months of pregnancy. As long as she restrained herself a bit, it wouldn't affect the baby. He had always resisted touching her because he was worried that her body wouldn't be able to take it. But at this moment, he suddenly didn't want to endure it anymore. The blood in his body began to heat up, and his breathing became rushed. Your Highness, Yin is so hot. Chen Baiyun's eyes were watery, and her body seemed like it had no bones as she leaned into his embrace. She revealed a soft smile. Can you help Yin take off her clothes? She could clearly feel his strange expression, and her heart was filled with joy and anticipation. She had waited for this long, and her wish was finally fulfilled. All right. Chu Xiaoyang's voice was hoarse. His eyes fell onto the smile on her lips, and his throat moved a bit. He slowly lowered his head and kissed the lips he had been longing for so long. This was the girl he loved to the bone. The girl that he had waited for 8 years to marry. He had waited for 8 years to marry her. Finally, the day that he could share a bed with her had arrived. His heart was pounding so fast that it almost jumped out of his chest. The closer he was to her, the stronger the fragrance became. This was the fragrance that belonged to Chun Baiyun. He was surprised and opened his eyes. He saw a beautiful face in front of him. Her eyes were closed, and her red lips were curled up. Her cheeks were blushing and filled with anticipation. Startled, he opened his eyes and saw a beautiful face in front of him. Her eyes were slightly closed, and her red lips were slightly raised. Her cheeks were blushing and filled with anticipation. Beautiful enough to move the hearts of all the men in the world. Even he was not an exception. She was beautiful enough to move the hearts of all the men in the world, and he was no exception. She was beautiful enough to move the hearts of all the men in the world. Even he was not an exception. Chapter 3:16. He closed his eyes, but that ugly face was still in front of him. Her head, face, and body were covered in dirt, and there was a smear of purple blood on the corner of her mouth. She was dirty and ugly, making people not want to look at her. But even if he closed his eyes, he would not be able to forget that face. What happened? What happened to him? Chu Xiaoyang suddenly gave a cold shiver. The blood that was about to explode instantly cooled down. The face in front of him was as beautiful as a flower, but it could not arouse any of his passion. Your Highness, what's wrong? Chen Baiyun waited for a long time, but she did not receive the warm kiss she had imagined. She couldn't help opening her eyes in disappointment and looking at him in confusion. It's nothing. Chu Xiaoyang's face was calm, not showing any strange emotions. He hugged her shoulder and said, the doctor said that this king's poison has just been cured, so I can't be too emotional. Otherwise, the poison will not be cured. We have a long time ahead of us, so there is no need to rush. Chen Baiyun was filled with regret. Your Highness, it's all Yun-er's fault. You should rest well, and Yun-er, it will give you a massage. All right? Chu Xiaoyang closed his eyes. Her slender hand gently rubbed his forehead. Her strength was not too strong or too weak, but it was very comfortable. He unknowingly fell asleep. Chen Baiyun looked at his handsome face, and the more she looked at it, the more she liked it. She couldn't help slowly getting closer and secretly kissing his lips. Chu Xiaoyang suddenly turned over, scaring her. Thinking of her previous actions, her face instantly turned red. When Chen Baiyun fell asleep, Chu Xiaoyang quietly got up and left the intoxicated flower pavilion under the cover of the night. He unknowingly walked to the Little Mirror Lake. This place was very close to the Flowing Cloud Pavilion, and he would never come here normally, but his mind was in chaos tonight. It seemed like only the lake could calm him down a little. At the Little Mirror Lake, he had kicked her into the water and almost strangled her to death. Luckily, she did not die. Even tonight, he clearly had the best chance to kill her, but he still let her go. Why? Not only was she asking why, even he was asking himself in his heart. Why was he doing this? Actually, the answer was already in his heart, but he was not willing to think about it. He was not willing to admit it, and he did not dare face it. There was only one reason. Chu Xiaoyang suddenly looked away. He didn't dare to think about the secret at the bottom of his heart. It was like a pool of black water that he didn't dare to pry into. There was killing intent. The hairs on the back of his neck suddenly stood up, and a cold, killing intent suddenly filled his body. Chu Xiaoyang was shocked in his heart. This killing intent came too quickly, and by the time he noticed it, it was already right in front of him. Even with his level of martial arts, he was only discovered when someone approached him. It could be imagined that the opponent's martial arts were at least a notch higher than his. It had to be of his. A black-clothed figure flashed through his mind. That person only used a willow branch to win against his spirit snake sword. His martial arts skills were simply unimaginable. At this critical moment, he had no time to think. With a tap of his toes, he flew forward like a white crane gliding across the calm surface of the lake. This Qinggong was called Crane Shadow on the cold pond. It was his family's secret skill, and it was unparalleled. Who knew that the person behind him was like a maggot attached to the bone, following him like a shadow and sliding across the lake. Chapter 317. It really is you. Chu Xiaoyang looked at the mysterious black-clothed man who had stopped him in a single move, and his heart was filled with shock and anger. He knew that the other side's martial arts were much higher than his, but he could stop him in a single move. There was only one possibility. That was, he knew his martial arts like the back of his hand. He knew every move and every style of his martial arts clearly. But how is this possible? I've already said that as long as you bully her again, I won't let you off. Do you think my words are nothing but farts? Mo Chuan was wearing a human skin mask, so there was no expression on his face at all. There was only a pair of deep eyes that released a cold glow that was filled with an awe-inspiring might. The hand that was holding Chu Xiaoyang's throat slowly increased in strength and tightened. Chu Xiaoyang's throat was filled with pain, and he couldn't breathe. He raised his right palm and was prepared to send it out, but his chest suddenly turned numb. Mo Chuan had already sealed his acupuncture point, and his body turned stiff, unable to move at all. What kind of thing are you? What right do you have to meddle in this king's family matters? This king is telling you, she is this king's woman, not yours. If this king wants her to live, she will live. If this king wants her to die, she will die. It has nothing to do with you. Chu Xiaoyang's face turned purple, and his throat was filled with pain. He knew that as long as the other side used a bit more strength, his throat would shatter and he would die. But there was only anger in his heart. There was no fear at all. His eyes popped out, and he had a terrifying and fierce expression as he viciously stared at Mo Chuan. These words seemed to come out of his throat, each word filled with anger and hatred. You're about to die, and you still don't know how to repent. Mo Chuan shouted in a sharp voice. Chu Xiaoyang's stubbornness had exceeded his expectations. Chu Xiaoyang revealed a fiendish smile and said, "Why should this king repent? What kind of person are you? What qualifications do you have to teach this king a lesson? Even if you are the emperor, you don't have the qualifications to meddle in this king's family matters." Although he hated Mo Chuan for standing up for Chen Ning, the unspeakable hatred in his heart had already faded. This was because just now, he had clearly seen the red virginity mark on Chen Ning's arm. This meant that she was still a virgin and had not done anything improper with this man. She could keep her chastity for him. She was worthy of being Chu Xiaoyang's woman. It was a pity that Mo Chuan could not see what he was thinking, Otherwise, he would have slapped his narcissistic face a few times already. You. Very good. Since it's like this, you can reap what you sow. And Mo Chuan's eyes turned cold as he spoke in an icy voice. He loosened his grip on Chu Xiaoyang. Chu Xiaoyang felt his throat loosen as he took in large gulps of air. But before he could even take a few breaths, he suddenly felt his collar tighten, and Mo Chuan had already picked him up like a rabbit. What do you want to do? When Chu Xiaoyang's angry voice came out, he was already flying through the air. With a put-on sound, he was thrown into the lake by Mo Chuan like a stone. Chun was he of him. A fresh air entered his lungs, giving him an indescribable sense of comfort. He greedily breathed in. Chapter 3:18. Facing death once again, Chu Xiaoyang felt like his lungs were about to explode. He cursed Mo Chuan's 18 generations of ancestors in his heart. He could not understand where this bastard had come from. He knew that the other side did not want his life, but rather wanted to torture him, letting him have a taste of Chun Ning's torture. Damn! His head was pulled out of the water once again. He lay on the bank like a dying fish, his belly bulging, his eyes showing the whites of his eyes. Mo Chuan released his acupuncture point, and he immediately turned around, spitting out large mouthfuls of lake water. Do you give up? When Chu Xiaoyang was about done vomiting, Mo Chuan sealed his acupuncture point. He grabbed his wet hair and looked down at him. Who the hell are you? Why do you have to stand up for her? This king is telling you, you can kill this king. Otherwise, the torture you've given this king today, this king will return it back to you one day. Chu Xiaoyang's eyes were filled with rage as he fiercely shouted. Very good, cut me if you have the skills. You're bullying a weak girl without any arms. What kind of hero are you? Chu Xiaoyang, are you a man? Mo Chuan was rarely angry, but his chest felt like it was about to explode today. The inexplicable rage made him want to kill the man in front of him. Whether this king is a man or not, only this king's woman knows. Chu Xiaoyang revealed a fierce smile. Do you like that ugly monster? It's a pity that she is my Chu Xiaoyang's woman. As long as this king doesn't let her go, she can never leave this place. I don't mind telling you, this king hasn't touched her yet, but if you dare provoke me again, I will let you personally see how she begs for mercy under this king's body. As long as this king is alive, she will forever be my Chu Xiaoyang's woman. If you want her, you'll have to kill me. His body was dripping with water, and he was in a sorry state, but the vicious words that came out of his mouth made people tremble in fear. Chu Xiaoyang. Mo Chuan raised his right palm. He knew that Chu Xiaoyang would do what he said. If he continued to torture him, this fellow would do anything. Unless he killed him. He gritted his teeth, and his right palm slowly pressed down on Chu Xiaoyang's head. Chu Xiaoyang felt like there was a 1,000-pound stone on top of his head. It was so heavy that he couldn't bear it at all. His neck bones began to crack from the pressure, as if they were going to break. But he forcefully opened his eyes and stared at Mo Chuan. Kill him, kill this king, and that woman will be yours. The muscles on his face contorted, making him look like a completely different person from his usual handsome self. Mo Chuan stared at the strange face in front of him. He could only see a wild rage on this face, without any fear of death at all. His heart skipped a beat. You're not afraid of death? Mo Chuan's palm stopped 3 inches from Chu Xiaoyang's head. Mo Xiao Xiao Mo. Mo. Mo Chuan stared into his eyes, and his eyes gradually became clear. Chu Xiaoyang, you really are a blind, idiot, and fool. He coldly mocked. You dare to do it, but you don't dare to admit it. You don't even have the courage to admit it. Chu Xiaoyang angrily roared. Who do you think you are? Do you think you're qualified to teach this king a lesson? Mo Chuan slowly withdrew his palm and looked at him with a look of pity in his eyes. Chapter 3:19. Chu Xiaoyang gritted his teeth and said in a hoarse voice, What kind of bullshit treasure is she? This king doesn't care about her at all. But this king's things, even if I don't want them, I won't allow anyone else to touch them. Mo Chuan's face turned livid under his mask. He raised his hand and wanted to slap this fellow to death several times, but he couldn't do it in the end. Chu Xiaoyang coldly said, "If you want to kill me, then hurry up and do it. Stop wasting time." "Chu Xiaoyang, you're simply hopeless." Mo Chuan gritted his teeth and took back his hand, turning to leave. "Stop!" Chu Xiaoyang coldly shouted from behind him. "Leave her! Scram far away for this king and never appear in front of her again. This king won't touch her." Mo Chuan suddenly turned around and moved as fast as lightning, grabbing Chu Xiaoyang's collar. "You dare touch her?" Chu Xiaoyang looked up with a fiendish smile. "Why wouldn't this king dare? You like that woman, don't you? Are you afraid that this king will bully her? All right. As long as you leave her, this king will promise you that I won't touch a single finger of hers." "Chu Xiaoyang, you're shameless." Mo Chuan's blood rushed to his head. He raised his hand and angrily slapped him twice, making his handsome face turn red and purple. "Very good. This king will remember these slaps. If you don't kill me, this king will let her have a taste of these slaps." Chu Xiaoyang's lips were bleeding and swollen, but the words he said were more vicious than the last. His mouth was filled with ruthless words, but his heart was secretly guessing who this man was. The other side had a mysterious background in strong martial arts, as well as knowing his martial arts like the back of his hand. He had 100 chances to kill him, but he did not do it in the end. Especially the words he said, they were all to teach him a lesson and not to take his life. Just who was he? He could not guess Mo Chuan's identity, but he was sure of one thing. Since the other side did not have any killing intent towards him, he had nothing to fear, especially since he had the other side's weakness. That ugly woman was the black, clothed man's greatest weakness. Mo Chuan's eyes revealed a look of disgust and hatred. His raised hand stopped in the air, but did not fall on his face. "All right, as long as you swear that you won't touch a single finger of hers, I'll leave," he said word for word. Chu Xiaoyang smiled. He knew that he had won. He swore word for word, "I, Chu Xiaoyang, will keep my word. As long as she obediently becomes this king's princess, this king will not touch a single finger of hers." If he wanted to torture that woman, why would he need to use force? If of a method to of torture that of a woman of his, he, Chu Xiaoyang, disdained to make a move against women. If it wasn't for him going crazy with anger, he would not have done something as crazy as tonight. "If she suffers even the slightest bit of harm, I will definitely take your head." Before Mo Chuan's voice fell, he had already disappeared, merging into the darkness. Only his voice lingered in Chu Xiaoyang's ears. A small stone flew into him and of sound. Of Chu of Chu Xiaoyang felt his chest heat up, and his acupuncture point was unsealed. He fell to the ground, and his body was covered in sweat. The ruthlessness from before had completely disappeared, and his face was filled with disappointment and dejection. Chapter 320. The thick, calloused fingers slowly touched her skin, stopping at her delicate neck. Tighten. Harder. She couldn't breathe. She desperately struggled, but she couldn't break free. Let me go. Let me go. She wanted to shout out, but her throat was blocked, and she couldn't shout at all. The hands were using more and more strength. Her chest was filled with pain, but she couldn't take in a single breath. She struggled to open her eyes, but she suddenly found a pair of fierce eyes right in front of her. Chu Xiaoyang. He was here again. He wanted to kill her. His body was pressing down on her, and her chest felt like it was being pressed down by a large stone. Her throat was in so much pain that it felt like it was about to be torn apart. Chu Xiaoyang, beast scram. She used all the strength in her body and sent a heavy slap at his face. Pa! It was a clear and loud sound. Chu Xiaoyang was stunned by the slap. Scram! Chun Ning angrily shouted as she suddenly woke up from her nightmare. Her body was covered in a cold sweat. Thinking back to the dream from before, it was as real as if it had just happened. She took 2 deep breaths and found that her right hand was aching, like she had really slapped something. Xiao! Xiao Hei, why? Why is it you? Why are you here? Chen Ning was shocked. Her eyes opened wide in disbelief as she stared at Mo Chuan sitting in front of the bed. He was staring at her without blinking. His dark eyes flashed with a light that she could not understand. On his elegant face, there were 5 clear red handprints. Your face, was it slapped by someone? Chen Ning suspected that she was still dreaming. With Mo Chuan's martial arts, how could he be slapped by someone? Mo Chuan looked at her, and his handsome brows slightly jumped up. He softly said, "That's right, I was slapped by someone. I was slapped by a girl who was not only talking in her sleep, she was also slapped in her sleep." Chen Ning's face turned red. She suddenly realized that she wasn't dreaming. She had really slapped someone's face, and this unlucky man was Mo Chuan. "I'm sorry, I really didn't do it on purpose. I just had a nightmare. I dreamed a beast." She gritted her teeth. That damn Chu Xiaoyang. Not only did he want to kill her while she was bathing, he didn't even let her go in her dream. Nightmare. Mo Chuan's expression became even more difficult to understand. Even if she could read everyone's mind, she couldn't understand the man in front of her. He was simply the nemesis of micro-expressions. It was a nightmare. Chen Ning nodded. Thinking of that terrifying dream, she still felt a lingering fear. But it was a good thing that she wouldn't have this nightmare again. Once she separated from Chu Xiaoyang, she would go back to the bridge with him and return to the road, never to see him again. "Are you afraid? That beast?" he suddenly asked, his eyes revealing a trace of concern and a faint trace of worry. He knew what kind of beast she was dreaming of. He had seen the expression she had when she was in her nightmare. He wanted to comfort her, but she slapped him hard in the face. Speaking of this was the first time he had been slapped by a girl in his life. "Of course I'm not afraid." Chen Ning raised her brows. "I gave him a fierce slap in my dream." She stuck out her tongue in embarrassment. "I never thought that I would slap your face." "Xiaohei, are you angry? Does it hurt?" Chapter 321. It doesn't hurt. Mo Chuan revealed a smile as he looked at her with a faint glow in his eyes. "Even if I'm angry with the world, I will never be angry with you." His voice was low and mellow, just like an intoxicating wine. She didn't even need to drink to be slightly drunk. Chen Ning's face couldn't help turning a little red. She avoided his burning gaze and said in a soft voice, "I never thought that an assassin who kills without blinking would also know how to say such sweet words." Her cheeks were white and had a faint blush on her face. Her hair was like dark clouds that covered her shoulders and back, making her look especially petite and delicate. Her long and dense eyelashes fluttered like butterfly wings, covering her misty eyes. Mo Chuan felt like his heart couldn't help beating fast. He stretched out his arm, and his fingers touched the silky black hair on her shoulder. His heart filled with an impulse. He wanted to tightly hold her in his embrace. But no, he didn't have the qualifications to touch her. Her current identity was the Dingyuan princess. She was that bastard Chu Xiaoyang's woman. If he touched her, that bastard would not let her go. Mo Chuan calmed himself and slowly took back his hand. His eyes were still on her blushing face. He had come to say goodbye to her, but he didn't know how to say it. Leave without saying goodbye. He couldn't do it. Chen Ning suddenly looked up, and the blush on her face disappeared. Her cheeks puffed up as she stared at him. "What? Does she look like she's angry?" Where did you go last night?" Do you know what that bastard did? He charged into my room and almost drowned me." "Were you at that time?" "My personal guard." She questioned him. She thought of the feeling of dying and how her chest felt like it was going to explode. She felt angry and wronged. Didn't he say he would protect her from any harm? Didn't he say he wouldn't let her lose a single hair? But when she needed him the most, he wasn't here. He wasn't here. He wasn't here. If it wasn't for Chu Xiaoyang letting her go, he wouldn't have been able to see her again. She bit her lips hard and forced back the tears that welled up in her eyes. She didn't want to cry in front of him. All of the men here, not a single one of them, could be relied on. Xiao Bai was like this, vowing that he would come back before the big hunt. But he didn't even show his shadow. This Mo Chuan was still like this. His words were even better than his singing, but she actually believed them. In that moment of despair, on the verge of death, she had hoped for him. She had really hoped that he would come to save her. But he didn't. He didn't appear from the beginning. She was really angry. Her hands were clenched into fists, and her chest was heaving up and down like an angry little beast. She was angry at Mo Chuan, angry at Chu, angry at Mo, angry at Mo Chuan, angry at Mo, angry at. She was used to relying on herself and not placing any expectations on anyone, but she had unknowingly looked forward to Mo Chuan and relied on Mo Chuan. But in the end, she realized how laughable her expectations and reliance were. No. T. She was delusional. She wanted too much. After thinking it through, she suddenly wasn't angry anymore. I should have understood earlier that the only one I can rely on is myself. So, Mo Chuan, you can leave. I don't need you anymore. The angry expression on her face disappeared and was replaced with a calm expression. Her voice was also very calm. That's right, she didn't need him anymore. Chapter 322. Mo Chuan was stunned. His handsome face instantly turned pale, and his pupils became even darker. She was chasing him away? Why? Was it because he didn't appear in time to save her? Could she erase all that she had done for him, all that she had said? His hands tightly clenched into fists as he stared right at her. He was indeed going to leave. But before he could say it, she had already said it. This kind of feeling made his chest feel like it was filled with cotton, making him feel indescribably uncomfortable, especially her accusation. It was like a whip lashing heavily on his heart. The reason he didn't appear in time was because he suddenly grabbed her hand and used a lot of strength, not caring about her struggles and resistance at all. You're angry? Because I didn't appear last night, right? That's why you want to chase me away, right? He pinched her chin and forced her to look into his eyes. She looked at him with an expressionless face and directly said, yes. Mo Chuan's fingers trembled. His face turned even paler and his eyes turned even darker. Actually, I was here the entire time last night. Mo Chuan's voice was very low, but she could clearly hear each word. He didn't want to explain, but he couldn't stand her cold eyes. That indifference that pushed him 1,000 miles away, as if he was a complete stranger. You were here. Her lips curled into a faint smile, but it was filled with sarcasm. That smile hurt him even more than her words. Very good, you were here. You watched him push my head into the water, and you watched him drown me alive. Then you just stood on the side and watched. Very good, Mo Chuan. She became angrier the more she spoke, and her body began to tremble from anger. If he wasn't here, she wouldn't be this angry, but he said he was here. Don't say any more. Mo Chuan suddenly covered her mouth, stopping her from saying anything else. She really didn't say anything else. She even closed her eyes, not willing to look at him again. If she wasn't, she wouldn't be this disappointed, she wouldn't be this angry, and she wouldn't say this kind of harsh words. That was because she cared. I really was here the entire time. She heard Mo Chuan's voice in her ears. It was still as mellow and pleasant as before, but it couldn't make any ripples in her heart. She didn't say anything or move. She continued to close her eyes and not look at him, letting him speak to himself. Mo Chuan looked at her cold and distant little face and gritted his teeth. All right, I'll tell you. The reason why I didn't come to save you was because His face turned from pale to red, and the veins on his forehead bulged. With great difficulty, he said, I saw you changing, bathing. I walked away for a while, because I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to control myself if I continued to watch. I never thought that Chu Xiaoyang would suddenly appear at that time. He didn't want to tell her, but he had been wronged by her, but he had been wronged. He had been wronged when he was because he was Chuan. He would rather tell her the truth. He would rather let her think of him as a lecher. He would rather let her scold him, beat him to her heart's content. Chapter 323. So, it was like this. Chen Ning's face instantly turned red. Her tightly closed eyes opened, and she looked at him without blinking. She understood his meaning. He saw that she was bathing, so he moved away. The veins popping out on his forehead and the beads of sweat dripping down his forehead, as well as his embarrassed and ashamed expression showed that every word he said was true. The deep anger and resentment in her heart towards him suddenly disappeared without a trace. Her eyes were clear and bright, so bright that she could see his shadow, but there was a faint smile on her lips. She wasn't angry. She didn't blame him. Mo Chuan suddenly took a deep breath, and the embarrassment and shame on his face disappeared. His expression became calm and composed, and the aura of being in control of everything was oppressive. He tightly held her hand and looked at her. Word by word, it was like he was making a solemn promise. I will take responsibility. Responsibility? What did he mean? Chen Ning was a little confused. She looked over and saw his serious expression, and she suddenly understood. So this was what he meant when he said he would take responsibility. This is really interesting. Her face turned slightly red again. Although he did not say it clearly, she knew that he must have seen something he shouldn't have seen last night. Otherwise, a man like him would never say the word responsibility. This was the best promise a man could give to a woman. Her heart was beating fast, and her face was burning hot. If it was in the modern era, wouldn't these two words represent a proposal? But why did he have to take responsibility for her? Just because he saw her body, he had to marry her? What kind of bullshit feudal custom was this? Chen Ning suddenly became angry. That faint shyness and happiness from before disappeared without a trace. Are you willing? She looked up and saw Mo Chuan looking at her in anticipation. He was waiting for her answer. He gathered his courage to admit his mistake and made the only promise he could make in his life. While waiting for her answer, he was so nervous that he held his breath. Seeing her shyly looking down and seeing her face blush, he felt his heart stop beating. She would definitely agree, definitely. No. Chen Ning looked right at him and clearly said, I'm not willing. Why? He was deeply shocked. He gritted his teeth and unknowingly tightened his grip on her hand. Why? Good question. I wanted to ask you, why do you have to take responsibility for me? Is it because you saw me bathing? Her eyes sparkled as she looked at him. He was silent. Was this reason not enough? Of course, it wasn't because of this reason, but this was the only reason he could give her. Seeing that he didn't say a word, she couldn't help but sneer. She had guessed correctly, and anger rose in her heart again. What kind of person do you think Chen Ning is? Would I marry a man just because he saw my body? Then you would be wrong. If I want to marry a man of indomitable spirit. He will love me, spoil me, cherish me, and treat me as the only one in his heart. Leave, Chen Ning, I will. Chapter 3:24. Chen Ning was so angry that her body began to tremble. Her teeth tightly bit the blanket as she cursed Mo Chuan half to death in her heart. Damn Xiao He. Take responsibility for whoever you want. It's best if you marry all the women you've seen bathing and take responsibility for them. Let them annoy you to death. There was no movement outside the blanket at all. She knew that Mo Chuan must have left. No one would stay here after being scolded by her, especially a proud man like Mo Chuan. It's good that he left, it's over. She didn't need to return what she owed him, and she didn't need to do what he wanted her to do. From now on, they would never meet again. What Xiao He, Xiao Bai, they could all scram to hell. From now on, she, Chen Ning, would not rely on anyone. She would only rely on herself. The blanket was so stuffy that she couldn't even breathe. She threw it off and took in large breaths of air. Suddenly, she was stunned as she stared at the man in front of her in a daze. Mo Chuan did not leave. He stood in front of the bed, and his bright eyes looked at her without blinking. That pair of beautiful black eyes had a faint smile on them. She bit her lower lip and angrily punched the bed. Damn Mo Chuan, he was laughing at her. Why aren't you leaving? Could it be that my words aren't clear enough? It is useless for you to stay here. I'll clearly tell you again, I don't need any personal guards. She revealed a serious face and coldly said. Mo Chuan nodded, and the smile in his eyes disappeared. He calmly said, I haven't left. I just want something from you. What thing? Something you owe me. He stared at her and slowly pointed at his chin. Chunning immediately understood what he wanted. Her face instantly turned red from anger, and she fiercely glared at him. Was there a man more shameless than him in this world? He was even more despicable than that bastard Chu Xiaoyang. All right, isn't it just a kiss? I'll get it back to you now. She angrily threw off the blanket and got off the bed, standing barefoot in front of him. He crossed his arms and raised his chin, looking like he was high above, looking down on everything. He just looked down at her. Lower your head. I can't reach it. She angrily said. If you can't reach it, then step on this. His foot moved and hooked over a stool to the side. All right. Chun Ning stepped onto the stool without any hesitation and looked down at him from above. She took a deep breath and closed her eyes before kissing him on the forehead. After kissing, she would leave. She didn't want to look at him anymore. Before her lips could touch his forehead, the stool suddenly tilted and she lost her footing. Her body swayed and she fell right into his open arms. His arms slowly tightened, hugging her tightly in his embrace. He promised Chu Xiaoyang that he wouldn't touch her, but she threw herself into his embrace, so it didn't count. You let go of me. She struggled with all her might. Chun Ning's head was pressed against his chest, so naturally she couldn't see the sly look in his eyes. What she smelled was the clear scent that was emitted from his body. It was very pleasant, just like his person. It would make her unknowingly intoxicated. His chest was hard and thick, and she could almost hear the sound of his heart. Thump, 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 thump. Was it because he was hugging her? Why was he so excited and nervous? Was it because he was hugging her? Had he never hugged another girl before? Chapter 325. But very quickly, this sweetness was covered up by anger. This damn Mo Chuan. He had purposely set up this trap to take advantage of her. That chair must have been kicked down by him. He wanted to use this method to hug her. Mo Chuan, what do you mean by this? If you want to hug me, then just hug me. There's no need to play so many tricks. She couldn't break free from his embrace, so she just chose to be innocent and embarrass him. Mo Chuan's face turned a little red. He never thought that she would be this straightforward. His thoughts were exposed by her, and the awkwardness on his face disappeared in a flash. He quickly regained his calm expression. Yes, I want to hug you, he calmly admitted. He dared to say what he did, not like that coward Chu Xiaoyang. Why? Could it be that you want to take responsibility after hugging me? I'm telling you, Chen Ning, don't care at all. What kind of bullshit rules are these? Let go of me. She couldn't struggle free. She suddenly lowered her head and bit down on his arm. He did not move at all as he let her bite him, but his heart suddenly came to a realization. So she was angry because of this. The smile on his lips slowly grew. The joy in his heart was like a wave, rolling over and over. The muscles on his arm were very strong. Chun Ning gritted her teeth in pain, leaving a deep bite mark on his arm. She bitterly looked up and angrily glared at him. Mo Chuan, if you're a man, then don't use force on me. He suddenly let go of his arm. Chun Ning took several steps back, staying as far away from him as possible. It was like he was a man-eating tiger. Seeing her alert and vigilant eyes, Mo Chuan's eyes sparkled. I'm leaving. He looked up at the sky outside. The sky was slightly bright. If he didn't leave now, he wouldn't be willing to leave. He couldn't stay here. He couldn't give Chu Xiaoyang a reason to hurt her. This was the best way he could protect her. Mo Chuan knew that even if Chu Xiaoyang had 1,000 faults, he still had a strong point, which was that his promises were worth 1,000 gold. Since he swore that he wouldn't touch a single finger of hers, he would definitely keep his word. Chun Ning was stunned, almost not daring to believe her ears. Was there something wrong with this man? He didn't leave when she chased him away and even wanted to take advantage of her. After taking advantage of her, he didn't even say a word and actually said that he wanted to leave. Leave. If you leave, don't ever appear in front of me again. She was filled with rage. Her lips turned white from her biting. She grabbed a pillow and threw it at Mo Chuan. Mo Chuan grabbed the pillow she threw at him as well as her hand. He forcefully gripped it as his dark eyes deeply looked at her. "I'm leaving, but I believe we'll meet again soon. I never want to see you again," she said through gritted teeth. Mo, Kama-Chuan, come on. He turned around and leaped out of the window. The hem of his black robe was like an ink-colored butterfly, swaying in the morning light and disappearing. Chun. He actually left without any reluctance to part with her. Mo Chun. Keep dreaming. Chun Ning charged in front of the window and threw the pillow in her hand in the direction Mo Chuan disappeared in. She gasped for breath, so angry that she couldn't speak. Mo Chuan, Chu Xiaobai, Chu Xiaoyang. None of you men are good things. She fiercely cursed again. Chapter 326. The news of Mo Chuan leaving quickly reached Chu Xiaoyang's ears. Watch the flowing cloud pavilion for this king. No matter what man it is, as long as they take a single step into the flowing cloud pavilion, immediately report to this king. Chu Xiaoyang called over the carefully trained secret guard captain and gave this order. This group of elite secret guards had been ordered to protect the intoxicated flower pavilion and Shun by Yun's safety. Now that he was filled with anger, he had sent them all to guard the flowing cloud pavilion. He wanted to see what kind of person dared to have ideas about his woman. The secret guard captain received the order, but his heart was secretly feeling strange. Didn't they all say that His Highness' heart was the concubine? How come in the blink of an eye, that unfavored princess had suddenly turned into a phoenix? Chu Xiaoyang stayed in the Peach Blossom Cove alone and did not go to the intoxicated flower pavilion to see Chun Bai Yun for several days. He was very upset and did not want to see anyone. Even his personal attendant Xiao and Zi and his confidant housekeeper Su were not allowed to see him. In the past, whenever he was upset, he would stay in the Peach Blossom Cove for a few days to calm himself down, but this time it did not work. The longer he stayed, the more upset he became. He missed Chun Bai Yun, but he did not want to go to the intoxicated flower pavilion. Because he wanted to see her, but he did not dare to see her. What was wrong with him? Every time he wanted to see Chun Bai Yun, another face would appear in front of him. It was the owner of that face that disturbed his mind and made his temper very bad. There were several times when he wanted to pull out the spirit snake sword and charge into the flowing cloud pavilion to kill that woman. If she died, he would not be so restless. He would be able to love the woman he loved with all his heart and would never feel ashamed to face her again. But when he thought of the mysterious man's threat, he bitterly dispelled that thought. Chen Ning, this king will not kill you. You want to divorce me, and you still want to separate from me? In your dreams, this king will slowly torture you until you kneel down and beg for mercy to this king. Chu Xiaoyang's face sank. He spread out a piece of paper without any expression and picked up a brush. The tip of the brush was ethereal, quickly sketching on the paper, and an ink portrait quickly appeared on the paper. Since he could not see the woman he loved, he could at least draw a portrait of her to comfort himself. Chu Xiaoyang stared at the portrait before the ink dried, and he could not help being stunned. He was indeed drawing Chun Bai Yun, but it was the 7 or 8-year-old Chun Bai Yun that saved him from the lake 8 years ago. It was the most profound image in his mind. She was drenched like a drowned rat, her wet hair draped over her face, revealing only a pair of big watery eyes. Tears kept rolling down from her eyes as she pulled his hand and begged him not to die. She had grown into a beautiful woman 8 years later. She had even won the title of the capital's #1 beauty in the capital. He was not an exception. His gaze fell on the little girl on the screen for a long time. For some reason, his heart suddenly moved. She had grown up and become more beautiful, but he still felt that something was wrong. Chu Xiaoyang raised his brush again. With a wave of his sleeve, he began to paint. He drew very quickly, and the delicate and pretty face of a young girl gradually revealed itself on the paper. Her jet-black hair draped over her shoulders. Her white hand held a peach blossom branch as she turned around and smiled. Chapter 327. Chu Xiaoyang put down his pen and placed his hands on the table. Looking at these two pictures, he fell into a daze. In terms of likeness, this girl that he had only met twice looked more like Chun Baiyun when she grew up. So when he first saw the girl on the peach blossom tree, he was shocked and thought that he was hallucinating. The girl from back then had grown up. But who was this girl? It was as if she had descended from the sky and appeared in front of him. Then, she was as indiscernible as smoke. Before he could even touch her shadow, she had disappeared again. Moreover, she had disappeared without a trace. He did not receive any news of the girl at all. Shaoanzi, you're quite bold. Didn't this king say that no one is allowed to disturb this king? Chu Xiaoyang's ears moved. He heard the sound of footsteps coming closer, and he immediately scolded him in a cold voice. Shaoanzi's terrified voice came from outside the door. I ask for your highness forgiveness. It is the concubine consort who has come to the garden and wants to see your highness. This servant cannot stop her, so please tell your highness. You know, Chu Xiaoyang's mood was complicated. He was happy and worried. After hesitating for a bit, he said, let her in. He glanced at the portrait on the table, took a piece of Xian paper, and covered the portrait of the unknown girl. If Immerse saw this, she would be jealous and cause trouble. Chun Baiyun was holding a box of food as she slowly walked in. A fragrant wind filled the air as she bowed down to Chu Xiaoyang. Every time she appeared in front of Chu Xiaoyang, she would always dress very well. Today she was wearing a light purple dress that dragged on the ground, adding a bit of an ethereal aura to her. Your Highness, you haven't come to see Immerse in several days. Immerse heard that your Highness has been living here and there is no one to serve you. Immerse is worried about your body, so I specially made a bowl of ginseng soup for your Highness. Immerse did not mean to break the rules, but after your Highness drinks the ginseng soup, Immerse will immediately leave. Chun Baiyun's sense of propriety was just right. It showed her concern for him and also showed that she understood the big picture. When Chu Xiaoyang heard this, he felt very comfortable no matter how he listened. He suddenly felt a sense of guilt in his heart. He thought of how he had not seen her for the past few days because of his worries, but she had missed him like this. He really shouldn't have. Why are you looking down when you see this king? Do you not want to see this king? He pulled Chun Baiyun's hand to help her stand up. Seeing her still looking down, he saw that she still had her head down. He saw that delicate and beautiful face, but there was no makeup on it today. Her face was pale white, and there were tears in her eyes. There was a trace of tears on her face. Such a lovely and moving woman could move his heart even more than her usual dainty and beautiful appearance. Immerse, why is your face so pale? Are you feeling unwell? Shaoanzi quickly summoned the imperial physician. He immediately shouted at Shaoanzi, who was outside the door. Chun Baiyun grabbed his hand and forced a smile as she shook her head. Your Highness, Immerse's body is very good. There is no need to call a doctor. Immerse has missed your Highness too much, so I haven't been able to sleep well for the past few nights. Seeing that your Highness is fine today, Immerse will be able to sleep well when I go back. She gently let go of Chu Xiaoyang's hand and opened the food box. She took out a bowl of hot ginseng soup and placed it in front of Chu Xiaoyang. Chapter 328. Your Highness, you... Chun Baiyun's face turned red, and she quickly pulled back her hand. The bowl at her hand did not hold and fell to the ground. Seeing that it was about to fall onto the table, Chu Xiaoyang suddenly reached out, and the bowl fell into his hand. He smiled as he put the bowl back into the food box. Your Highness, your martial arts are very good. Chun Baiyun's eyes were filled with admiration and love. She looked around and saw the portrait on the table. She pursed her lips into a smile and said, Yeah, your Highness is truly skilled in both the pen and the sword. Yin never knew that your Highness could paint. Chu Xiaoyang held her waist, and his eyes filled with pride. With a smile, he said, what do you think of this king's painting? Chun Baiyun carefully looked over the person on the paper and praised. Your Highness' brush strokes are divine, and the person is very lifelike. It's like they just walked out of the painting. She thought that Chu Xiaoyang would paint her, but she never thought that it would be a little girl with disheveled hair and a face covered in tears. She was instantly disappointed, but she hid it very well, and Chu Xiaoyang did not notice it at all. He was in high spirits as he admired his painting with her. He smiled and said, "Yin'er, look at how ugly you looked when you cried. Did you never dream that after 8 years, you would blossom into the most beautiful flower?" Chen Baiyun's heart skipped a beat and jumped in her throat. The blush on her face quickly disappeared. She unknowingly clenched her fists as she stared right at the little girl in the painting. "Yin'er, Yin'er." Chu Xiaoyang called her twice before she came back to her senses. She forced a smile at Chu Xiaoyang and said, "Your Highness, why would you suddenly paint Yin'er when she was young? Yin'er back then was really ugly to death. If other people saw this painting, wouldn't they laugh at Yin'er? How about you give this painting to Yin'er and let Yin'er take good care of it? This was personally painted by your Highness for Yin'er, and Yin'er wants to enjoy it alone, not letting anyone else see it." Chu Xiaoyang said with a smile without any hesitation, "All right, since you like it, then take it. Many thanks, your Highness. Yin will definitely take good care of this painting." Chen Baiyun smiled as she slowly rolled up the painting and placed it to the side. She stroked her hair and coquettishly said, "Your Highness, your paintings are very good. Yin'er wants a painting from your Highness, but I don't know if your Highness is willing or not." "If you don't say it, how do you know if this king is willing or not?" Chu Xiaoyang lovingly rubbed her chin. His face was filled with a smile, making him look even more handsome. He was in a very good mood. The depression and annoyance of the past few days were suddenly swept away. All of it was swallowed into his stomach along with a bowl of ginseng soup. He was in a good mood, and all the depression he had was suddenly felt. With such a beautiful woman by his side, he was actually worried about that ugly monster all day long. "Wasn't that stupid? Your Highness, Yin'er wants you to draw a portrait for me. Are you willing?" Chen Baiyun revealed a smile. Her brows were like silk and filled with love, making Chu Xiaoyang's heart beat faster. He smiled as he pulled out a piece of paper, but he did not notice the painting underneath it. He looked at the young girl with sparkling eyes and then turned to look at Chen Baiyun. He felt that the two of them were quite similar. He smiled as he pulled out a piece of paper, but he didn't notice the portrait underneath it. He looked at the young girl with sparkling eyes and then turned to look at Chen Baiyun. He felt that the two of them were quite similar. Chapter 329. You recognize her? Chu Xiaoyang's heart skipped a beat as he turned to look at her. Of course Chen Baiyun recognized her. Even if she turned to ashes, she would still recognize her. That beautiful smiling girl in the painting. If it wasn't Chen Ning, who else could it be? Countless questions flashed through her mind. Why would His Highness draw Chen Ning's portrait? From his tone, it seemed like he didn't know that the person in the painting was Chen Ning. This girl is so beautiful. Chen Baiyun revealed a stunned expression as she stroked the girl's hair. She clicked her tongue in praise before suddenly angrily saying, "No wonder your Highness hasn't gone to the intoxicated flower pavilion to see Yin'er. It seems like you have another beautiful person in your heart. Yin'er knows that I am ugly, so I won't bother your Highness' eyes." She pretended to be angry and turned to leave, but was pulled back by Chu Xiaoyang. "Silly girl, how could this king have a beautiful person in his heart? This king only loves you the most." Chu Xiaoyang smiled as he scratched her nose and spoiled her. "Then who is the girl in the painting? She is this beautiful, and His Highness has personally painted her. Isn't she your sweetheart?" Chen Baiyun unhappily pouted her lips. "Of course not. This king doesn't know who she is. I just happened to see her and drew her. Since you've misunderstood this king, then this king will burn it." Chu Xiaoyang did not care as he picked up the painting. Waving the torch, he burned it. Compared to the person in front of him, what did the person in the painting count for? Chen Baiyun's anger turned into joy. She leaned into Chu Xiaoyang's embrace and said in a soft voice, "Your Highness, Yin'er is afraid that you have another woman in your heart and you won't like Yin'er anymore. Actually, Yin'er is not jealous of this girl. Yin'er is just. She was so embarrassed that she could not continue. Chu Xiaoyang smiled as he continued for her. It's just that you like this king too much, isn't that so? He laughed as he picked up Chun Bai-yun and walked to the couch on the side. Chun Bai-yun's heart was beating fast as she coquettishly said, "Your Highness, don't. It's daytime right now." Her face was as red as a rose. Chu Xiaoyang placed her on the couch and said with a smile, "Of course this king knows it's daytime, but aren't you thinking too much about it, you know? This prince only wants you to lie down here and properly paint a painting for you. Oh, let's paint a painting with the 4 words crabapple, sleeping in spring. What do you think?" His tone was teasing. Chen Baiyin covered her head in embarrassment and angrily said, "Your Highness is teasing me. Yin will ignore you." But her heart couldn't help feeling disappointed. She supported her chin with one hand and placed the other on her lap, looking very lazy and charming. Looking at Chu Xiaoyang, who was concentrating on painting, her eyes seemed to be thinking of something. She was only thinking in her heart, why would His Highness give that cheap woman Chen Ning a portrait? How did he get to see that bitch's face? It had to be that cheap woman. She had purposely revealed her true appearance to seduce His Highness and take her most beloved man away from her. No, she had to find a way to destroy her face before His Highness found it. Or the person who destroyed her. She suddenly felt powerless. After Lan Xiang died, there was no one she could trust by her side. In this king's palace, other than herself, she did not trust anyone. That's right. She could not trust the people in the king's palace. But she had her mother. She believed that her mother would be able to help her think of a way to deal with that cheap woman, Chen Ning. Last time, her mother had prepared a bag of good things and had arranged a swap on that cheap woman's wedding night, almost sending that cheap woman to meet King Yama. As long as her mother made a move this time, that cheap woman would not be able to escape death. Chapter 330. When Chun Bai-yun returned to the intoxicated flower pavilion, she used the excuse that she wasn't feeling well and quickly sent someone to the country protecting palace to invite her mother, Madame Lin. Madame Lin quickly arrived at her intoxicated flower pavilion. The mother and daughter whispered to each other in a room. After sending Madame Lin off, Chun Bai-yun revealed a satisfied smile. She turned around and smiled at a 40-year-old woman beside her. "Nanny, do you remember everything my mother said?" This woman's husband was surnamed Chun and was Chun Bai-yun's nanny. She was loyal to the mother and daughter pair and had been specially brought by Madame Lin to the king's palace to serve Chun Bai-yun. She respectfully replied, "Second miss, this old servant has remembered everything. Please be assured, second miss, this old servant will do her best to serve second miss and will definitely fulfill your wish." "Very good. Now go to the Flowing Cloud Pavilion and tell elder sister that I will invite you to the garden to enjoy the flowers tomorrow, and ask elder sister to come." "Yes, second miss." Madame Chun lowered her head in agreement. Under the guidance of a young maid, she headed to the Flowing Cloud Pavilion. Chen Ning had been very satisfied these past few days. Chu Xiaoyang did not show himself, so of course no one came to cause trouble for her. Chu Xiaobai and Imo Chuan also did not appear, so she had a rare moment of peace. She was now calmly waiting for the spring banquet on the 10th day of the 4th month. She would enter the palace to see the emperor and ask for a decree to separate. Today, she was sitting on the newly built swing in the yard. She saw Xiao Ru pouting as she walked over with an unhappy face. "You little girl, your mouth could hang oil bottles on it. What is making you unhappy?" She teased with a smile. "No, nothing." Xiao Ru shook her head. "Quickly say it, what is it?" Xiao Ru reluctantly said, "Young miss, it's someone from the intoxicated flower pavilion who wants to see you." This servant had her wait outside. "Young miss, no matter what the matter is, it's like a weasel paying respects to a chicken. It's not good." Chen Baiyin? She hadn't heard any news from her in several days. Sending someone to see her, she must have thought of something new. Chen Ning smiled and pinched Xiao Ru's cheek. With a smile, she said, "That's right, but I've been bored these past few days, so I'll play with her. Go invite her in." Xiao Ru was about to leave. "Wait a minute. Who did Chun Bai-yun send?" "Eldest miss, it's Miss Chun from our manor. She is second miss wet nurse." Xiao Ru pouted and angrily added, That Miss Chun has a stomach full of bad intentions. The second miss grew up drinking her milk, but she also has a rotten stomach, not having a good heart. So it's her. Chun Ning's eyes lit up. After searching through the memories of the original owner, she had a general understanding of Miss Chen's personality. The so-called helping the evildoer, and helping the evildoer was referring to people like Miss Chun. But on the surface, she was always smiling at the original owner. Hiding a dagger in her smile was the most appropriate way to describe her. There's a road to heaven, but you don't want to take it. There's no door to hell, but you want to throw yourself into it. Chun Ning said to herself. Then she smiled until her eyes narrowed. Very good. Xiaoru, go invite Mother Chun in. You have to be polite and kind. You're not allowed to look at Mother Chun. Do you understand? Young miss, you have to be careful of Chun Ning. In the past, Xiaoru wanted to say more. Chapter 331. Xiaoru seemed like she suddenly understood something. She clapped her hands and said with a smile, This servant understands. This servant will go invite Mother Chun in. Good girl. Chun Ning nodded in satisfaction. She knew that Miss Chun was very cunning, even more scheming than Chun Bai Yun and Lan Xiang combined. For Madame Lin to send her to the king's palace to serve Chun Bai Yun, her goal must have been to give her a hard time. But she was not afraid at all. The current Chun Ning was not the same Chun Ning from before. Very quickly, Miss Chun followed Xiaoru into the flowing cloud pavilion. Her eyes looked around, and when she arrived in front of Chun Ning, she had a respectful appearance. She bowed to Chun Ning, but she did not bow down. This old servant, Miss Chun, greets young miss. She used her old age to speak, still using the old way of addressing her. She had already heard from Madame Lin and Chun Bai Yun in the intoxicated flower pavilion about Chun Ning's actions in the king's palace, but she did not believe it at all. Thinking back to when they were in the country protecting palace, this young miss was a complete idiot who was played in the palm of their hands. How could she become so strong after marrying into the king's palace? So it must be because the second miss and Lan Xiang were useless. She had personally come to the flowing cloud pavilion this time to send a message. Her goal was to see Chun Ning's situation. Chun Ning was sitting on the swing, smiling as she talked to Xiaohe beside her. She did not even look at Miss Chun, as if she did not exist. This old servant, Miss Chun, greets young miss. Miss Chen's legs were sore from squatting. Seeing that Chun Ning was ignoring her, her heart was filled with anger and her voice doubled in volume. Chun Ning heard it this time. Her eyes turned and fell onto Miss Chun. Someone slapped this servant's mouth. Yes, princess consort. Xiaohe immediately came forward and pulled back Miss Chen's hair, revealing her half-old and half-aged face. Xiaoru did not say anything and slapped her twice with a pa sound. She thought back to when she was in the country protecting palace, and how Miss Chun had helped the Madame Lin mother and daughter bully the young miss. She was filled with anger, so these two slaps were especially hard. Miss Chun was stunned by the slaps. She blinked for a while before she could react. She had been slapped in the face. Young miss, this old servant. Before she could finish, Chun Ning coldly said, Continue slapping her. Xiaoru bluntly slapped her again. Xiaoru bluntly slapped her face again. Miss Chun never would have dreamed that she would be slapped 4 times as soon as she entered the flowing cloud pavilion. She was so angry that her lungs were about to explode. This old servant doesn't accept this. Young miss, she remembered that the one His Highness doted on the most was the second miss who grew up drinking her milk and not the young miss in front of her. So her heart was filled with confidence. Continue to beat him. Beat him until he understands the rules. Chun Ning slowly took the cup of hot tea that Chun Tao handed over and looked at Miss Chun from the corner of her eyes. Xiaoru slapped Miss Chun several times until the corner of her mouth began to bleed. Her eyes couldn't help revealing a look of hatred. She suddenly had an idea and quickly changed the way she addressed her. With a putong sound, she kneeled on the ground and said, Princess consort, this old servant knows her mistake. I ask for the princess consort's forgiveness. Chapter 332. When Xiao Ru and the other maids heard this, they couldn't hold back their laughter. It was hard for them to hold it in. Miss Chen's face turned purple with anger, but she couldn't do anything to Chen Ning pretending to be a fool. She could only swallow this grievance in silence. She forced out a smile and said, "It was this old servant who was blind when I entered the palace and accidentally bumped into a pillar. Many thanks for the princess consort's concern." "So you bumped into a pillar. Mother Chen's eyesight is too bad. Today your luck was good, and you bumped into a pillar. If your luck was bad tomorrow, you might have bumped into a ghost." Chen Ning pursed her lips as she giggled. Miss Chen was filled with rage, but she didn't dare say anything. She could only lower her head and say, "The princess consort is joking." But she fiercely said in her heart, "This old lady bumped into a ghost like you. I'll turn you into a ghost tomorrow." What did Mother Chen come to find this princess for? Chen Ning lazily looked at Miss Chen. Reporting to the princess consort, "This old servant has come under the orders of the second miss to invite the princess consort to the lake tomorrow. The second miss said that she hasn't seen the princess consort in a long time and misses you. Recently, there have been flowers blooming on the lake, so she wants to have a drink with the princess consort on the flower boat and reminisce about sisterhood." Miss Chen endured the pain on her cheeks as she spoke with a grimace. "Oh, little sister wants to invite this princess to the lake to see the flowers? It's rare for little sister to have this kind of interest. So as an elder sister, I can't disappoint little sister's good intentions. Mother Chen, go back and tell little sister that this princess has agreed and will even bring wine and dishes for little sister to taste." Chen Ning smiled as she waved her hand. She ordered Xiao Ru, "Go take out 10 coins and give it to Mother Chen. Let her take it to see her eyes. If she really bumps into a ghost, then little sister will lose a loyal servant." Miss Chen's face turned red and her heart turned cold. How could the young Miss Words be so sharp? It was like she was a completely different person from before. She slightly raised her head and peeked at Chen Ning from the corner of her eyes. She saw Chen Ning's dark and bright eyes looking at her with a smile. She was shocked and quickly lowered her head. "Mother Chen, we are all people of the Hugua Palace. We don't need to follow the king's palace's rules. If you want to see this princess, then just openly look. It's been a while. Don't you want to see this princess' face? You could be assured and look up." Miss Chen had already eaten a few mouthfuls because of this title. How could she dare act rashly again? Hearing Chen Ning's words, she gathered her courage to look at Chen Ning and gave a flattering smile. "The princess consort's complexion is becoming better. Your Highness must love the princess consort a lot. This old servant is happy for the princess consort's phoenix body." She flattered her with insincere words, but in her heart she thought, "Why is this be asterisk to Seich's face so clean? It's as fresh as a freshly peeled egg. If His Highness saw this face, it and shouldn't say I heat. No wonder the second miss wanted to ruin the young miss face. If she kept this face, it would only be a disaster. Mother Chen's mouth is really sweet. This princess likes to hear these words. Xiao Ru, give Mother Chen another 5 coins to buy candy. This will make her mouth even sweeter and make little sister happy." Miss Chen had an awkward expression. She could not tell which of Chen Ning's words was true and which was false. She walked out of the flowing cloud pavilion and stared at the 15 copper coins that Chen Ning had given her. She was clearly sending away a beggar. Chapter 333. Nanny, your face. When Chen Baiyin saw Miss Chen, she was shocked. She quickly understood and tightly clenched her fists. Was she hit by that cheap woman? She really is bold, actually daring to hit this concubine's people. She slapped your face. It's clear that she doesn't place this concubine in her eyes. Nanny, just wait. This concubine will report to His Highness and let him take care of this matter for you. She was filled with rage. Thinking of Chu Xiao Yang's affection for her, her heart was filled with confidence as she walked away. Miss Chen pulled her back. Second miss, don't be impatient. This old servant taking a few slaps doesn't mean anything. We can't disturb His Highness with this matter. We should take our time to think about tomorrow's matter. Miss Chen said in a pained voice. You're saying that that cheap woman agreed to go to the lake tomorrow? Chun Bai-yun's eyes flashed with a look of joy and ruthlessness. Yes, she agreed very quickly. But from this old servant's observation, the young miss seems to be different from before. It's like she's a different person. Miss Chen thought back to the Chen Ning she saw in the flowing cloud pavilion. She was always smiling, but she did not show any mercy when dealing with her, and her words were watertight. How is this still the Hugua Manor's idiot Chen Ning, who could be bullied by anyone? However, even if she's as evil as a ghost, I'll still make her drink this old servant's foot-washing water tomorrow. Miss Chen revealed a sinister smile. Nanny, have you thought of a good way to deal with her? Chen Bai-yun was pleasantly surprised. She knew that the nanny her mother sent for her would not disappoint her. Second miss, you don't need to worry. Let this old servant make a good plan. This young miss is not easy to deal with. I'm afraid the plan we came up with will be easily seen through by her. Miss Chun thought of Chen Ning's faint smile, and her heart was a bit confused. Chen Bai-yun became anxious hearing this. Are we just going to let her go like this? Nanny, you don't know, but His Highness seems to be paying more and more attention to that cheap woman. If His Highness sees her face... She suddenly gave a cold shiver. Her eyes fell onto the portrait on the table from Chu Xiaoyang, and she grabbed Miss Chen's hand. Nanny, you have to think of a way. No matter what, you can't let His Highness see her face. Second miss, relax. Since the young miss wants to use her face to seduce His Highness, then we'll destroy her little face first. Miss Chun viciously said. Don't worry. She lowered her head and saw the portrait. She exclaimed in surprise, Isn't this what eldest miss looked like when she was young? Second miss, did you draw this? Of course not. I took this back from His Highness. I never thought that after 8 years, His Highness would still clearly remember this cheap woman's appearance. If he sees that bitch in the portrait, he'll know that the person who saved him back then wasn't me, but that bitch. He'll definitely know. The more she thought about it, the more afraid she became. Her body couldn't help but tremble. Although Chu Xiaoyang had burned the picture of the grown-up Chun Ning, if he saw Chun Ning in person, he would be able to guess the truth. Miss Chen didn't care about the difference between master and servant. She hugged Chun Bai-yun and gently comforted her. Chun Bai-yun had grown up drinking her milk, so she was no different from her own child. They were master and servant, but in her heart, Chun Bai-yun was already her own pearl. Even if she had to give up her life for Chun Bai-yun, she would not hesitate. Chapter 334. No, she's not dead. That cheap woman is still alive. As long as she's alive, she will tell His Highness about this matter one day. Nanny, I'm scared. I'm really scared. Chun Bai-yun tightly buried her head in Miss Chen's chest as she cried like a pear blossom in the rain. Nanny, I'm really scared. I'm really scared that after His Highness finds out the truth, he won't love me anymore. After all these years, he has never forgotten that cheap woman. He thinks that person is me. It's me. That's why he loves me so much and loves me so much. I'm really scared. Every time he looks at me, I can't help thinking that the person he's looking at is not me, but rather that cheap woman. Nanny, tell me, is the person His Highness loves me? Or is it that cheap woman? She buried herself in Miss Chen's embrace and spoke while crying like a child. The fear that had been suppressed in her heart for a long time was like a flood that instantly destroyed her usual disguise. Especially in front of the person she trusted the most, she did not need to hide her fear anymore. Second miss, of course the person His Highness loves is you. It can only be you. It will never be that cheap woman. As long as that cheap woman closes her mouth, no one will ever know about what happened in the past. It's already been 8 years. Not to mention that second miss is similar to that cheap woman. As long as that cheap woman dies, His Highness will never know about this secret, and the position of the Ding Yuan princess will belong to second miss sooner or later. Miss Chun patted Chun Bai-yun's back in comfort as a fierce glow flashed in her eyes. Even if she had to risk her life, she would take care of this thorn in Chun Bai-yun's side for Chun Bai-yun. She suddenly thought of a good idea and couldn't help revealing a dark smile. Second miss, this old servant has thought of something. We'll use both methods tomorrow and let that cheap woman escape the first one, but she won't be able to escape the second one. Chen Baiyun instantly stopped crying. She looked up from Miss Chen's embrace and looked at her with a surprised and happy expression. Nanny, what method did you think of? Although there were only the two of them in the room, and the other servants had been sent far away by Chen Baiyun, in order to be careful, Miss Chen moved her lips to Chen Baiyun's ears and whispered a few words that only Chen Baiyun could hear. After Chen Baiyun heard this, she slightly knit her brows. Although this method is good, what if it hurts the child in my stomach? She placed her hand on her stomach and hesitated. This was her magic weapon, as well as her stepping stone to the Ding Yuan princess throne. No matter what, nothing could happen to the child. Miss Chen said, "Second miss, you can be assured, this old servant will be careful. I will not let the second miss suffer any injuries, and I will not harm the little successor in your stomach." All right, we'll do as you say. Chen Baiyun finally relaxed as she rubbed her stomach with a smile. Miss Chen calling her little successor made her heart burst with joy. As long as she followed this nanny's method, she would quickly take care of this thorn in her side, Chen Baiyun. At that time, she would become the princess consort, and her child would be His Highness' successor. He would be filled with glory and endless wealth. Then this old servant will go prepare first. After tomorrow, there will no longer be a young miss in this world. Miss Chen smiled lovingly at Chen Baiyun. When she mentioned Chen Baiyun, her eyes flashed with a sharp glow. You have to be careful. You can't let His Highness find out. If... Chen Baiyun looked at Miss Chen and bit her lips. This old servant understands. If I'm found out, this old servant will not drag the second miss down. Miss Chen decisively said. Chapter 335. The sky was clear and the wind was gentle. Chen Ning's mood was as good as the weather. She sat in front of the dressing table, and Xiao Ru was helping her comb her hair while looking at the smiling Chen Ning in the mirror. Her heart was filled with 100 questions. Young miss, are you really going to go sightseeing with the second miss? That's right. Don't you think today is a good day to go sightseeing? Chen Ning looked around in the mirror and nodded in satisfaction. Xiao Ru, your hair combing skills are getting better and better. But young miss, the second miss must have bad intentions. Xiao Ru couldn't help saying. If she could see it, then the young miss must have seen it too. What she couldn't understand was why the young miss knew that the second miss did not have good intentions. But she still insisted on going. If something happened to the young miss, Chen Ning shook her head with a smile. She turned around to look at Xiao Ru's worried face and couldn't help giggling as she said, "Of course I know that they don't have good intentions, but I don't have any good intentions either. Since they want to play, then I'll play with them. You don't need to worry about me. They think I'm a vegetarian sheep, but they never thought I was a wolf in sheep's clothing. Perhaps I'll go wild and eat them all." Xiaoru laughed at her words, but she was still worried. "Young miss, if you really want to go, then let this servant go with you. It'll be good to look after them. If you go with me, what if they have bad intentions towards you? At that time, my hand will be tied." "Xiaoru, what are you worried about? That Chen Baiyun can't beat me, and she can't compare to me in terms of scheming. If she meets me, then she'll be the unlucky one. Well, have you ever seen me suffer a loss?" Xiaoru thought about it. Chen Ning wasn't wrong at all. Every time the second miss wanted to harm the young miss, she would always end up losing the rice used to steal chicken. However, she wouldn't turn back until she hit the wall and continued to provoke the young miss. "All right, then you have to be careful, young miss. If you come back missing a single hair, then this servant will strangle the second miss." She pouted and said. Chen Ning smiled as she pinched her cheeks. She stood up and turned around. With a smile, she said, "Do I look good?" She rarely dressed up. Today, she was only wearing a simple and elegant moonlight-colored blouse and a soft and light lily skirt. Her face was clean without any makeup, but she looked light and agile, elegant and otherworldly. Xiaoru nodded and said, "Young miss is 100 times prettier than the second miss. It's a pity that His Highness is a blind person, so he will never see you." Thinking of this, she wanted to give a sigh. If His Highness could see the young miss beauty, he would not be as cold to the young miss as he was right now. Although bodyguard Hay and that immortal-like young master were very good, she still hoped that the young miss could be with His Highness. After all, His Highness was the man that the young miss had always loved. Chen Ning revealed a smile. Her dress fluttered as she walked out. "Eldest miss, you don't want to put on rouge today? Aren't you afraid His Highness will see your face?" Xiaoru suddenly remembered and chased after him to ask, "Do you think Chen Baiyun will let Chu Xiaoyang see my face? If I'm not wrong, Chu Xiaoyang will not appear today." Chen Ning said with a smile. The place Chen Baiyun invited her to was not somewhere else. It was the Little Mirror Lake. Chapter 336. It had to be said that Chen Baiyun had spent quite a bit of effort on today's sightseeing tour. She had actually prepared a beautiful boat with tea, fresh fruits, and everything that could be found on it. Standing on the shore, she smiled as she watched Chen Ning slowly approach. When she saw Chen Ning's beautiful face without any makeup, her smile froze on her lips. Her right hand, that was hidden in her sleeve, couldn't help clenching into a fist. Miss Chen, who was standing beside her, noticed her strange expression and quietly said, "Second miss, you can't reveal any flaws. No matter how beautiful this cheap person's face is, it won't be long before she turns into an ugly monster." Chen Baiyun felt a lot more comfortable. She came forward with a smile and affectionately held Chen Ning's hand. "Why is elder sister so late? Little sister has been waiting for elder sister for a long time." Her hands were painted with bright red nail polish, making her hands look as white as snow. Chen Ning looked down, and her eyes fell on the nail polish on her nails. She looked up at her and revealed a smile as she said, "Every time I see little sister, it's always so fragrant, and today it's even more fragrant. Little sister has such a fragrant smell. Why aren't you thinking of elder sister?" Chen Baiyun revealed a gentle smile. "Elder sister has wronged Yun How could little sister forget about elder sister when she has something good?" She turned to Miss Chen and said, "Why aren't you bringing out the gift I prepared for elder sister?" Miss Chen held a brocade box and respectfully presented it to Chen Ning with both hands. "Princess Consort, this is the honey perfume that the second miss has prepared for you. It was given to the second miss by His Highness, and the second miss was not willing to use it, so she specially kept it for the princess consort." Chen Ning smiled as she received it. Mother Chen's mouth is becoming sweeter. She opened the brocade box and saw a palm-sized glass bottle inside. The fragrance inside was a honey yellow color, and a sweet fragrance wafted into her nose. In this era, glass was more expensive than gold. This glass bottle was worth quite a bit, so it could be imagined that the fragrance it contained must be incomparably precious. Chen Ning knew how precious this thing was. She knew that Chen Baiyun was really willing to pay a heavy price for it. She smiled as she picked up the bottle and played with it in her hand. "I really like this honey perfume. Thank you, little sister, for your kind intentions, but elder sister came in a hurry and forgot to prepare a gift for little sister. I hope little sister won't blame me." How could little sister blame elder sister? The wind is strong by the lake. "Elder sister, let's talk on the boat." Chen Ning noticed that Chen Baiyun and Miss Chen were secretly exchanging glances with each other. There was a look of pride in their eyes. She pretended she didn't see it. She smiled as she stepped onto the plank and walked onto the boat. "Why didn't elder sister bring anyone to serve you? Did Xiaoru not come with you?" Chen Baiyun looked behind Chen Ning and asked in a concerned voice. "Xiaoru caught a cold, and I was afraid that the wind would worsen her illness, so I had her stay in the room. Little sister must have a lot of servants by your side. What, did little sister only bring Mother Chen?" Chen Ning's eyes swept over the boat. "Little sister, I'm not sure. Us sisters are talking, so why do we have to let unrelated people stand on the side? We'll just have them wait on the shore. Nanny is enough to take care of them." Chen Baiyun pursed her lips into a smile. The boat was transparent on all sides, and when the curtains were pulled up, a gentle breeze blew across the lake, blowing up the willows on the shore. The surrounding scenery was unobstructed. Miss Chen was at the back of the boat, and there was only Chen Ning and Chen Baiyun on the boat. Chapter 337. Chen Ning followed her line of sight and saw that the boat was slowly approaching the shore. There was actually a large flower garden there, filled with beautiful purples and red flowers. The fragrance was fragrant, and there were butterflies flying around. A cool breeze blew across the lake, bringing with it the fragrance of flowers. Chen Baiyan's expression was a bit nervous. Her right hand picked up the wine jug and poured 2 cups of wine. Picking up 1 cup, she placed it in front of Chen Ning with a smile. "Elder sister, this is fruit wine. The taste is very sweet, but the alcohol taste is very light. Elder sister will definitely like it." Chen Ning had already noticed that when she was pouring the wine, the nail polish on her pinky finger had lightly brushed across the wine in front of her. Her heart already understood, and she thought, "So this is what you want to do? It's too simple." She pretended not to know and picked up the wine cup. With a smile, she said, "If little sister says it's good wine, then the taste will definitely not be bad." She raised it to her lips and was about to drink it. Chen Baiyun couldn't help holding her breath. There's a person over there. It looks like His Highness." Chen Ning suddenly pointed to the left side of the shore. Chen Baiyun's body trembled, and she almost knocked over the fruit plate in front of her. She immediately turned to look in the direction Chen Ning was pointing at. Even Miss Chen, who was rowing the oars, nervously trembled as she turned her head. Chen Ning easily swapped her wine cup with Chen Baiyun's. With a casual smile, she said, I saw wrong. It's not His Highness, but rather a tree stump." Chen Baiyun looked over and saw that it really was a tree stump. She was already covered in a cold sweat. "This fruit wine is really good. Little sister, elder sister has already finished it. Why isn't little sister drinking it?" Chen Ning smiled as she picked up the cup and drank it all in 1 gulp. Chen Baiyun came back to her senses. Seeing that Chen Ning's cup was empty, a look of joy flashed in her eyes. She also picked up the cup and drank it all in 1 gulp, calming herself down. Chen Ning, calling him His Highness, had almost scared her out of her wits. If he appeared here today and saw Chen Ning, then all of her plans would have gone to waste. She had already sent people to ask Xiaoenzi about it. Although the Little Mirror Lake was beautiful, His Highness would never come here normally. So, she had decided to choose this place for the lake trip. Seeing Chen Ning drink the wine, her heart calmed down. She pointed at the flower garden in front of them and said, "Elder sister, look, the flowers over there are so beautiful. How about we take the boat closer to take a look?" "Of course." Chen Ning nodded with a smile. She saw that there was nothing strange with Chen Baiyun drinking the wine. She looked over at the flower garden and thought of her actions today. Her fingers touched the honey perfume in her sleeve, and she could already guess what Chen Baiyun was planning to do. "All right, since she likes to play, I'll play with her to my heart's content." Chen Ning smiled, and she said, "Chen Ning said that Chen Ning of the Ningling of Chen was Ning." The pleasure boat gradually approached the shore, and the fragrance of the flowers became even more intoxicating. Clusters of fresh flowers bloomed under the bright sun, creating a beautiful sight. The 2 of them were admiring the flowers when they suddenly heard a strange buzzing sound. Looking towards the direction of the sound, they saw bees gathering honey in the flowers flying towards the pleasure boat at the same time. The 2 of them were enjoying the flowers when they suddenly heard a strange ah sound. Looking over, they saw bees gathering honey from the flowers flying over to the boat. The flower garden was very large, and with the flowers blooming, there were quite a few bees attracted. But for some reason, these bees all gave up on the nectar and flew over to the boat. Chapter 338. She was already prepared. She took out the honey perfume bottle she had hidden in her sleeve, and a sweet fragrance filled the air. When the swarm of bees smelled this scent, they began to buzz loudly as they all flew at Chen Ning. When Chen Baiyun and Miss Chen saw this, they couldn't help revealing a smile. Chen Ning waved her right hand, and the small bottle that she had uncorked rolled to Chen Baiyun's feet. Chen Baiyun only wanted to watch a good show and did not know anything at all. At this moment, the swarm of bees in the air suddenly changed targets. They gave up on Chen Ning and charged at Chen Baiyun. Chen Baiyun and Miss Chen were shocked, They could not understand what had happened. So painful. They heard Chun Bai-yun give a sharp cry as a bee stung her face. It was so painful that tears came out her eyes. Get lost. Are you stinking bees crazy? Why are you stinging my family's second miss? Miss Chun waved her sleeves to drive away the swarm of bees while loudly cursing. The swarm of bees did not care about her cursing at all. It was like they had a deep grudge against Chun Bai-yun as they charged at Chun Bai-yun. Chun Bai-yun's body felt like it was being stabbed by countless needles at the same time, causing her to cry out in pain. Her hands covered her head, but she couldn't cover her face. Miss Chun desperately waved her sleeves, driving away the bees on Chun Bai-yun's face. In the end, the bees also hated her, so they stung her head, hands, and face. It's so painful. Nanny, save me, quickly save me. Chun Bai-yun cried out. Her eyes were swollen from being stung by the bees, and she could not open them at all. Miss Chun ignored the pain and quickly thought of a plan. She took off her clothes and tightly covered Chun Bai-yun's face, but the bees continued to charge at Chun Bai-yun. The sharp stinger on their tails pierced through her clothes and stung Chun Bai-yun's body. Chun Bai-yun was in so much pain that she couldn't even cry. It was strange that all the bees were charging at Chun Bai-yun. Chun Ning was just 3 steps away from them, but there was not a single bee by her side. She was smiling as she watched the good show in front of her. If she hadn't seen through Chun Bai-yun and Miss Chin's trap, the one crying for her parents right now would be her. It had to be said that Chun Bai-yun's poisonous plan was a bit out of her expectations. But thinking about it, Chun Bai-yun would not be able to think of this with her intelligence. So, it had to be Miss Chin's idea. This Miss Chin's heart was very sinister. If she was left by Chun Bai-yun's side, who knew what kind of trick she would come up with? Seeing that there were more and more bees gathering, if this continued, Chun Bai-yun would die from the bee poison. Chun Ning was not a soft-hearted person. If the other side wanted to harm her, she would return it 10 times over. But when she saw Chun Bai-yun's slightly swollen belly, she couldn't bear to let an innocent little life die like this. My dear sister, aren't you being muddle-headed? As long as you jump into the lake, the bees won't be able to bite you. She sighed faintly and reminded him. Chun Bai-yun and Miss Chin's eyes lit up. Without any hesitation, they jumped into the lake one after the other. Putong, putong. Chun Bai-yun and Miss Chin's eyes lit up. The two of them did not hesitate, and with a putong, putong, they both jumped into the lake. The water of the lake quickly rose above their heads. After Chun Bai-yun and Miss Chun jumped into the lake, they quickly drank several mouthfuls of water. Being hit by the cold lake water, they both woke up. Damn it! Chun Bai-yun and Miss Chun jumped into the lake and drank several mouthfuls of water. When they were hit by the cold lake water, they both woke up. Damn! They couldn't swim at all. Chapter 339. When Chun Bai-yun and Miss Chin's hearts were filled with despair, they heard a dong sound. A wooden stool fell beside the two of them and floated up and down. The two of them grabbed onto the stool like they were holding onto straw. Chun Bai-yun, you've tried to harm me time and time again, but I can't bear to let the child in your stomach die. Looking at your unborn child, I'll let you live for now, but I'm warning you, if there's a next time, I won't be as lenient as I was this time. Chun Ning's eyes were deep as she stared at Chun Bai-yun in the water. She slowly and clearly said this. Her slender figure stood at the front of the boat. Her face was like ice, and her dress fluttered in the wind as she flew away. Chun Bai-yun and Miss Chin's hearts trembled at the same time. They didn't have time to think as they grabbed onto the stool and desperately paddled to the shore. It was a good thing that they were not far from a shore. After paddling for a while, the two of them finally climbed onto the shore naked and fell onto the shore in a sorry state. Chun Bai-yun's throat was filled with nausea as she opened her mouth to spit out the lake water in her stomach. Miss Chun was vomiting while narrowing her eyes. She glared at Chun Ning on the boat in the middle of the lake, and her lips curled into a fierce smile. Yin, what's wrong? A shout suddenly came from behind the two of them. Following that, a figure fell from the sky and appeared beside Chun Bai-yun. He picked up the naked Chun Bai-yun with a look of panic on his handsome face. Your Highness, Chen Baiyin never would have dreamed that Chu Xiaoyang would appear here. She had just escaped from death, and seeing the man she loved appear in front of her, she was pleasantly surprised. She tightly hugged his neck and began to cry. Yin don't cry. Tell this king what happened. Why are you soaking wet? Did you fall into the lake? Tell this king what's going on. Chu Xiaoyang tightly hugged Chen Baiyin while tightly knitting his brows. Chen Baiyin just shook her head while crying, burying her face in his chest. Her face was red and purple from being stung by bees. How could she dare let the man she loved see her ugly appearance? Miss Chen, tell this king what happened. Tell me the truth. If there is even half a lie, this king will take your head. Chu Xiaoyang saw Chen Baiyin's sorry appearance, and his heart filled with pain. He turned to Miss Chen and shouted. Miss Chen lowered her head and rolled her eyes. She fell to the ground and cried, Reporting to your highness, it's the princess consort. It's that cheap woman Xinning? Chu Xiaoyang's handsome face sunk. It was so dark that it seemed like it was going to drip water. He shouted in a deep voice, Speak. It's like this. The concubine consort and the princess consort had not seen each other for several days and missed each other, so she sent this old servant to invite the princess consort to a boat tour. Who would have thought that the bees that were collecting honey would suddenly fly onto the boat, and for some unknown reason, they all began to sting the concubine consort. This old servant quickly helped the concubine consort chase away the bees, but at this time, the princess consort took advantage of the concubine consort's unprepared and forcefully pushed the concubine consort into the lake. In a moment of desperation, this old servant threw a wooden stool next to the concubine consort and also jumped into the lake. The concubine consort and this old servant used the wooden stool to escape with their lives. Miss Chen's mind worked very quickly, and she immediately came up with a flawless reason. Chapter 340. She's still on the boat in the middle of the lake. Miss Chen pointed at the lake and then looked down, hiding the proud look in her eyes. Chu Xiaoyang did not even have time to turn around before he heard a large sound come from the lake. Oh! The three of them trembled at the same time. Chu Xiaoyang quickly turned around and saw a few broken pieces of wood floating on the lake. There was no trace of the boat at all. This is bad. The boat is sinking. The boat is sinking. Miss Chun shouted in a panic. Elder sister is still on the boat. Your Highness, let go of me. I want to save elder sister. Chen Baiyin screamed out. She struggled out of Chu Xiaoyang's embrace and crawled to the shore. Chu Xiaoyang stood there in a daze, looking at the ripples on the surface of the lake. His face instantly turned paler than paper. Chen Ning, he let out a loud roar like a wounded beast and suddenly leaped into the air. His body was like a flying goose as he flew towards the ripples in the lake. Then, without hesitation, he dove into the deep lake. The cold and dark lake water quickly submerged his head. He suddenly thought of something. Damn, he didn't know how to swim. The pressurized lake water rushed into his nose and mouth, and the fear of death once again enveloped him. His surroundings were completely dark as he slowly sank to the bottom of the lake, just like that day 8 years ago. But this time, there would not be a Chun Baiyin to save him. Was he going to die? Was he really going to die? He once again felt the feeling of suffocation. At this moment, Chu Xiaoyang's eyes suddenly lit up. He saw a pale, white lotus flower blossoming in the water, and then it quickly floated towards him. His heart shook heavily, and his eyes widened in disbelief. Even his heart stopped beating. It was her. After 8 years, she had finally appeared in front of him again. She had grown up. From a 7 or 8-year-old little girl, she had grown into a slim and graceful young lady, but that elegant and refined face made him recognize her at a glance. It was her. It was her. Chu Xiaoyang's heart was so happy that it almost exploded. He had completely forgotten his fear, forgotten the threat of death, and forgotten everything. He only had her in his eyes. At this moment, he was filled with gratitude towards the heavens. At the last moment before his death, he was finally able to see the person he had been thinking about for 8 years. He reached out his hand to her. Even if it was an illusion, he still wanted to hold her hand before he died. As long as he could hold her hand while he died, he would feel incomparable happiness. As long as he could hold her hand while he died, he would feel incomparable happiness. Chunning did not care about the hand that was grabbing her. She quickly swam to his side and grabbed his arm, using all her strength to drag him to the surface. Chu Xiaoyang's eyes were closed, and his face was pale, not moving at all. He had already fainted. However, his grip on her hand was firm from beginning to end. With a bow sound, the two of them finally reached the water. Chunning took a deep breath. Because Chu Xiaoyang was tightly holding her hand, she could only use her other arm to swim. She was so tired that she almost became a water ghost at the bottom of the lake. Chu Xiao, are you an idiot? You obviously don't know how to swim, yet you jumped into the water to save people. Are you going to save me, or am I going to save you? Chapter 341. At this time, the lake shore was already in chaos. When the guards heard the news and heard that His Highness had fallen into the lake, they were all scared out of their wits. Like dumplings, they all jumped into the water with a putong sound. Everyone quickly found Chu Xiaoyang and Chunning floating on the surface of the water and were filled with joy. Whether it was those that could swim or not, they all desperately swam towards the two of them. Chunning knew that once the guard arrived, Chu Xiaoyang would be saved. Her body was wet, and she was not willing to see anyone. She forcefully opened Chu Xiaoyang's fingers and pushed the unconscious him towards the guards. Then she jumped into the water and made a splash as she dove towards the bottom of the lake. The guards only saw the fairy-like face of the young girl flash in front of them. Then, her fine black hair fluttered in the wind and spread out on the surface of the water. Her skirt fluttered in the wind like a blooming water lotus. She swam towards the depths of the lake and quickly disappeared from everyone's sight. Everyone couldn't help rubbing their eyes, thinking that they were hallucinating. They had actually seen a fairy in the lake. They worked together to bring Chu Xiaoyang to the shore. Chen Baiyun was crying on Chu Xiaoyang's body. No matter who pulled her, she was not willing to let go. It was Miss Chun who said, "Second miss, don't be in a rush to cry. It's more important to save His Highness first." The experienced guards forcefully pressed down on Chu Xiaoyang's chest, forcing out the water from his abdomen. After a while, Chu Xiaoyang's chest finally began to slowly rise and fall. His long eyelashes slightly trembled. His brows knit together and his right hand clenched, but he found that his hand was empty. He suddenly opened his eyes and sat up. "Don't go," he forcefully shouted. "Your Highness is awake. Your Highness is awake." Cheers came from all around him. Chu Xiaoyang tightly knit his brows. Before he was fully awake, a wet and soft body suddenly jumped into his embrace. It was Chen Baiyun. She tightly hugged him and cried out, "Your Highness, you're fine, you're fine? God bless you. If something happened to your Highness, Yin wouldn't want to live." This was the first time Chu Xiaoyang did not immediately hug her. After a while, he slowly raised his right hand and placed it on Chen Baiyun's shoulder. In a hoarse voice, he said, "Yin, was it you who saved me?" Chen Baiyun's body trembled. She did not dare raise her face that had been stung beyond recognition and could only cry. Chu Xiaoyang stared at her lowered head and asked, "Yin, is it you?" Chen Baiyun felt her entire body turn stiff and of her tongue. Even her tongue could not speak, but she was still. Miss Chen quickly kneeled down and replied, "Reporting to your Highness, the concubine consort is pregnant and had suffered a great shock. When she saw you fall into the water, she went crazy and wanted to jump into the water to save you. This old servant was worried about the child in the concubine consort's stomach, so I desperately pulled the concubine consort back and shouted for help. It was a good thing that the guard arrived in time and saved your Highness. This old. I asked your Highness." Her words were flawless. After Chu Xiaoyang heard this, his tense face relaxed a bit. He did not look at Miss Chun and just stared at Chun Bai Yun. Yinner, is it like this? Chapter 342. She suddenly raised her hand and slapped Miss Chen's face. Turning around, she fell into Chu Xiao Yang's embrace while crying. Your Highness, I know you must be angry with Yun I. She suddenly couldn't breathe and fainted. Miss Chen immediately cried out in shock. Concubine consort! Concubine consort! This is bad. The concubine has fainted. Your Highness, please save the concubine. No matter what mistake the concubine has made, her stomach still has your Highness flesh and blood. She kneeled down and kowtowed to Chu Xiaoyang. He secretly praised Chun Bai Yun in his heart. Good acting. She really is someone who grew up drinking her milk. She did not believe that a man would not do anything when he saw his beloved woman faint, especially when that woman was pregnant with his flesh and blood. Sure enough, Chu Xiaoyang picked up Chun Bai Yun. His back was straight, but he did not immediately leave. Rather, he turned to look at the mirror-like surface of the lake before using his qinggong. It was as if his feet were not touching the ground. Miss Chan waited until she could not even see his shadow before letting out a sigh of relief, like she had escaped a great disaster. Of course she knew that the one who saved Chu Xiaoyang from the lake was not someone else. It was the Chun Ning that she wanted to kill. She did not have time to think about why Chun Ning did not die from the explosion. She turned around and coldly looked at the guards that looked like they were drowned in water. You better keep your mouth shut about today's matter and not say a single word. Otherwise, the concubine consort will be very, very unhappy. If the concubine consort is unhappy, His Highness will also be unhappy. If His Highness is unhappy, then you won't be able to keep your heads. Her eyes flickered with a venomous glint, and every guard who made eye contact with her shuddered involuntarily. Of course they knew what Miss Chen meant, so they all nodded. In fact, they hadn't seen anything. The lake fairy was most likely an illusion. If they told His Highness about this, perhaps they would be scolded or beaten by His Highness. For the guards, it was better to have less trouble than less trouble. Asterisk, the doctor quickly finished treating Chun Bai Yun. Reporting to Your Highness, the concubine consort has only fainted from shock. It is nothing serious. Only the concubine consort seemed to have been stung by a bee before falling into the water, and there's a lot of bee venom in her body. I'm afraid she will be in pain for a few more days. This minister has an ointment that was given by a divine doctor. It has a miraculous effect, and after applying it, it will greatly reduce the concubine consort's pain. The doctor took out a tube of ointment from his medical box and gave it to Chu Xiaoyang. Chu Xiaoyang did not take it and just gave a casual unsound. His expression was indifferent, completely different from his usual concerned expression. The doctor's hand awkwardly stopped in midair. He felt it was strange. Everyone could see how worried His Highness was for the concubine consort. But when his eyes turned to Chun Bai Yun, he understood. That enchanting face was now blue and purple, looking as ugly as a pig's head. When he first saw her, he did not recognize that she was the #1 beauty of the capital, Chun Bai Yun. It really is love when one's beauty fades. Even the wise and powerful King Ding Yuan looked at one's face. He wanted to curry favor with Chu Xiaoyang, but he had been given the cold shoulder. He did not know whether he should take back the ointment or not. Many thanks, doctor. Miss Chen saw this and quickly applied the ointment, thanking the doctor. Chapter 343. Every time the doctor came to take Chun Bai Yun's pulse, he would receive quite a bit of rewards. Today, he had given out a tube of precious ointment for nothing. You can leave as well. Chu Xiaoyang's cold eyes looked at Miss Chun, and Miss Chun shivered. Your Highness, the concubine consort has just woken up and needs someone to take care of her. She was not assured and wanted to stay here to remind Chun Bai Yun, so she gathered her courage and said this. Before she could finish, Chu Xiaoyang coldly said, Scram! Killing intent filled the air. Miss Chen did not dare stay in the room and quickly left, but she was secretly complaining in her heart. She wanted to eavesdrop outside the door, but she suddenly heard a chi sound. Something had pierced through the window, and with a pa sound, it hit her face and knocked out 2 of her teeth. "If you don't leave now, I'll feed you to the dogs." Chu Xiaoyang's cold voice came from the room. Miss Chen was so scared that she almost pissed her pants. She quickly ran away. There was only Chu Xiaoyang and Chen Baiyin left in the room. Chen Baiyun's eyes were closed, and she was lying on the bed without moving, as if she was unconscious. But her uneven breathing had already betrayed her. Her heart was beating fast, and she was so panicked that she did not know what to do. She did not dare open her eyes because she was afraid. Although she did not open her eyes, she could still feel Chu Xiaoyang's gaze on her face. She did not see what her face looked like, but she felt like there were countless needles stabbing her. But compared to the fear in her heart, she forgot about the pain for a moment. Chu Xiaoyang did not say a word. Chen Baiyin did not dare open her eyes. The room was very quiet, and she could not hear Chu Xiaoyang's breathing, as if he was not here at all. Only Chen Baiyun's controlled breathing could be heard. To her, this was a kind of indescribable suffering and torture. "Yin'er, are you awake?" When Chen Baiyun was about to give up, she suddenly heard Chu Xiaoyang's voice come from above her head. There was no killing intent or indifference. It was just the same gentle voice as usual. Chen Baiyun's tears began to flow down her face as they flowed down from the corners of her eyes. Her heart that was in her throat finally fell to the ground. She had thought that when she woke up, he would angrily question her and blame her, but there was no such thing. He was just as gentle as before. She choked with sobs as she nodded. She still did not dare open her eyes and did not dare look at Chu Xiaoyang's face. Baiyun by Xiao Yun Chu was a by Xiao Yun Chu was. Chu Xiaoyang sat in front of her bed and took the tube of ointment. His tone and expression were the same, as usual, still filled with warmth. Only his eyes were deep and serene, like a bottomless lake. It was a Chun Chun Chun. "Your Highness, you. Why are you so good to Yin?" Chen Baiyin couldn't hold it in anymore as she began to sob. Chu Xiaoyang said in a soft voice, "Because you've always been good to this king, of course this king has to treat you well. You saved this king 8 years ago, and this king has never repaid you. This king will definitely repay you in the future and treat you well, very well." Hearing 8 years ago, Chen Baiyun's crying suddenly stopped and her body became stiff. Chapter 344. The ointment had a cool aura, and after it was applied, Chen Baiyun felt much more comfortable. Her face no longer hurt that much, but the sweetest thing about her was her heart. She opened her teary eyes and fearfully looked at Chu Xiaoyang. "Your Highness, does Yin'er look very ugly right now? If Yin becomes an ugly monster, will you not like Yin'er anymore? Is it that you won't love Yin'er as much as before?" Chu Xiaoyang's lips curled into a smile. That slightly evil smile made his face look strangely handsome. Chen Baiyun's heart skipped a beat. She foolishly looked at his face, not being able to move her eyes away at all. His hands were gentle as he continued to apply the ointment on her face. His beautiful black eyes revealed a gentle smile. "Yin-er, do you think this king likes your face? This king can tell you that no matter what your face looks like, this king's desire to repay you will always be the same." Chen Baiyin suddenly felt like joy had fallen from the sky. Her eyes filled with joy. "Your Highness, you really treat Yin-er well." She bit her lips and was so excited that she couldn't speak. Chu Xiaoyang revealed a smile, and his eyes fell onto her slightly bulging stomach. He slowly placed his hand on it, and for the first time, his face revealed a look of concern for his unborn child. "You have to take care of your body. You can't let anything happen to this child. This king will treat you well in the future and treat this child very well." Chen Baiyin was even more excited as she blurted out, "If he is a boy, will your Highness give him the title of successor?" "Successor?" Chu Xiaoyang slightly paused. His eyes sparkled and he nodded with a smile. "Of course. As long as you safely give birth to the child, everything will naturally go according to your wishes." "Your Highness." Chen Baiyun was so excited that she couldn't control herself. She couldn't help throwing herself into Chu Xiaoyang's embrace. Chu Xiaoyang held her shoulder and let her lie down. He placed his index finger on her lips. The doctor said that your body is weak right now, and you fell into the water, so you need a rest. We still have a long time in the future, so we can slowly talk about it. There is no need to rush. Chen Baiyun's heart was even sweeter than honey, especially when he said, we still have a long time in the future. It gave her a peace of mind. Her eyes were filled with affection as she gently nodded. Suddenly, her brows knit together. What's wrong? Does your face hurt again? Chu Xiaoyang did not miss any of her expressions. Your Highness, tell Yun elder sister. How is elder sister? Chen Baiyun grabbed Chu Xiaoyang's hand, filled with worry and concern. Chu Xiaoyang's face instantly sunk, and he let go of her hand. He coldly said, Yun Baiyun, Your Highness, Yun just wants to know if my sister is safe. Yun's his heart. Then this king will tell you, that cheap woman is not dead. Chu Xiaoyang's voice was even colder than ice. Chen Baiyun timidly said, Your Highness, please don't blame elder sister. Yun believes that elder sister didn't push Yun into the water on purpose. It must be because elder sister saw the bees stinging Yun and wanted to help Yun chase them away, so she wasn't careful. The wet nurse must have made a mistake and thought that elder sister pushed Yun into the water. Your Highness, please forgive elder sister. Chapter 345. She thought that after Chu Xiaoyang heard this, he would angrily look for Chen Ning. Who would have thought that Chu Xiaoyang's brows would jump up? Oh, Yun are you saying that it wasn't Chen Ning who pushed you into the water and that Miss Chan was mistaken? Chen Baiyun wanted to bite her tongue in regret, but she couldn't take back her words. She could only vaguely say, Yun just doesn't think that elder sister is that kind of person. Chu Xiaoyang suddenly stood up, and his face was filled with anger. Such a bold Miss Chun. This king thought she was your wet nurse, so I agreed to keep her by your side, but who would have thought that she would be this useless? Not only did she not protect her master, causing you to fall into the water, she even tried to defile you. This kind of servant, how could she not be ruthlessly taught a lesson? Someone come. He angrily shouted out the door. Pass on this king's orders. Punish this servant, Miss Chun, with 20 family punishments. If she dares to do it again, she will be beaten to death. Chen Baiyun's face turned pale in fright as she tightly bit her lower lip. She wanted to plead for Miss Chun, but seeing Chu Xiaoyang's fierce appearance, she did not dare say anything. Tears began to fall from her eyes. Hearing Miss Chen's pitiful cries from being beaten, she couldn't help digging her nails into her palms. Miss Chun was her wet nurse, so every time she was beaten, Miss Chun would let out a pitiful cry. It was like a knife cutting into her heart, but she couldn't say it out loud. The reason why Miss Chun was being beaten was all because she had accidentally said a few words. Her original intention was to provoke Chu Xiaoyang's anger towards Chen Ning, but she never thought that she would bring trouble upon herself and burn her own butt. In an instant, she almost spat out blood from her vomiting. Yun this king knows that Miss Chun is your wet nurse, but it is the master's fault for not teaching a servant. This king sending people to teach her a lesson is for Yun's own good. This way she will serve you more attentively in the future. Otherwise, when she just entered the palace and something like this happened to you, if I don't teach her a lesson, how can this king convince the others? Yun you won't blame this king for being heartless, right? Chu Xiaoyang said this while gently taking a handkerchief and wiping the tears from her eyes. The deep love on his face instantly blocked Chen Baiyun's mouth. Chen Baiyun's heart churned. Hearing Chu Xiaoyang's sweet words, it was like eating a spoonful of honey. But hearing Miss Chen's pitiful cries, it was like being fried in a pan, an indescribable feeling. She didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She could only lower her head and bite her lip so hard that it almost bled. Your Highness is doing this for Yun? How could Yun blame your Highness? She finally managed to squeeze out these words. Come lie down and obediently sleep. The most important thing is to take care of your body first. Chu Xiao Yang carefully helped her lie down and personally covered her with a blanket. Chun Baiyin looked at him, wanting to say something. Your Highness, why did you jump into the lake? Was it to save my elder sister? She bit her lips and finally asked. Chu Xiao Yang's hand paused. Then he covered her with the blanket as if nothing had happened. Do you think that this king will save that bitch? He asked with a blank expression. Then, Your Highness. This king was confused from anger. I heard that cheap woman pushed you into the water, and this king wanted to personally kill her. In that moment, I actually forgot that I couldn't swim. It was a good thing the guards saved this king. Yin I've made you worry for this king. Chu Xiao Yang's words made Chun Baiyun's heart fall down. She let out a long sigh and revealed a very sweet smile. Chapter 346. Chu Xiao Yang slowly put down the ointment in his hand and stood in front of the bed, staring at her sleeping face. There was no expression on his handsome face at all. After a long time, he opened the door and walked out. In the yard, Miss Chen's hair was disheveled and her face was covered in tears. But had been beaten, and when she saw Chu Xiao Yang, she began to tremble. Go in and properly serve the concubine consort. If anything happens to her or the child in her stomach, this king will not be this polite next time. After Chu Xiao Yang coldly said this, his robe fluttered and he left without looking back. Miss Chun had been beaten 20 times for no reason. She had thought that her plan had failed and she would not be able to escape death, but who would have thought that things would not go as she thought? Listening to His Highness' tone, it was clear that he loved and cared about the second miss. Could it be His Highness did not know anything at all? She endured the pain as she entered Chun Baiyun's room and found that Chun Baiyun was sleeping very sweetly on the bed. There was a layer of ointment applied to her bruised face, and the remaining ointment was placed on the pillow in front of the bed. Her heart was filled with doubt. The ointment on the second Miss face, was it applied by His Highness? If His Highness knew what she and the second Miss had done, he would have already given the order to execute them. Why would he apply ointment for the second Miss? Moreover, the second Miss' lips were curled up, so it was clear that she was having a good dream. That's right, His Highness really did not know. Miss Chun patted her chest and let out a long sigh of relief. After Chu Xiao Yang left the intoxicated flower pavilion, he called the captain of the secret guards. After giving a few orders, the captain left to carry out his orders. For the rest of the day, he stayed in the Peach Blossom Cove study alone, not taking a single step out. When night fell and the candle in the room was lit, he sat alone under the lamp, silently pondering. When the drum reached the third hour, he suddenly shook his robe and jumped out of the window. The moonlight melted, and the shadows of the flowers were silent. He stood under a peach blossom tree, and a beautiful and charming face appeared in front of him. Today, at the bottom of the cold lake, when he was struggling in despair and death, he saw her again. At that time, he was already in a semi-conscious state, but before he fainted, he clearly remembered holding her hand. But when he woke up, she had disappeared once again. It wasn't a dream. It definitely wasn't a dream. Chu Xiao Yang gritted his teeth and muttered to himself. He suddenly used his qing gong and stepped on the moonlight, running towards the flowing cloud pavilion. Who is it? Stop! Before he reached the entrance of the flowing cloud pavilion, he suddenly heard a shout from behind him. Following this, a sharp palm wind slashed at his back. Chu Xiao Yang's sleeve waved, and he released the palm energy. He turned around, and the faint moonlight shone on his cold, arrogant, and handsome face. This subordinate deserves to die. This subordinate didn't know that Your Highness had arrived and offended Your Highness. Please forgive me, Your Highness. The black-clothed secret guard immediately knelt on the ground, trembling in fear. You've done well. You can leave now. Chu Xiao Yang unexpectedly did not become angry and just calmly waved his hand. Chu Xiao Yang's eyes. Chu Xiao Yang eyes flashed. Chu Xiao Yang's eyes sparkled. His figure moved like a shadow as he entered the flowing cloud pavilion. He walked over to Chen Ning's window and saw that there were no candles in the room. It seemed like the person inside was already asleep. Chapter 347. A faint fragrance entered his nose. With the moonlight shining from the window, he could clearly see a slender figure lying on the bed. She was facing the bed, and her long black hair was scattered across the pillow, revealing the back of her neck that was as white as snow. Pung, 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 pung. In the room that was so quiet one could hear a pin drop, Chu Xiaoyang suddenly heard his own rapid heartbeat. It was beating so loudly that he suspected that she could hear it even when she was sleeping on the bed. Damn! He took in a deep breath and calmed his violent heartbeat. His eyes were glued to the figure on the bed. Her breathing was light, and she was in a deep sleep. Chu Xiaoyang slowly walked over step by step. The curtains were light and the hooks were lowered. As long as she turned around, he would be able to clearly see her face with the moonlight in front of the bed. He couldn't help holding his breath. Aster's Chun-Ning's sleep was not peaceful. She kept dreaming, and in her dreams, there were many figures. There was Chu Xiaobai, Mo Chuan, and Chun Baiyun. If it wasn't for her cleverness, discovering the hidden explosives on the boat, and jumping into the lake, she would have been blown to pieces along with the boat. It seemed like she had underestimated Chun Baiyun and Miss Chin's determination to kill her. She saw herself sinking to the bottom of the lake, and saw Chun Baiyun and Miss Chun grinning at her from the shore. Suddenly, a figure loudly called out her name and jumped off the shore, jumping into the lake. It was actually Chu Xiaoyang. Then she saw him drinking large mouthfuls of water and spitting out bubbles like a fish, slowly sinking to the bottom of the lake. He didn't know how to swim. Then why did he jump in? He wouldn't be trying to save her, right? Crazy. She gave him this word in her heart. She wanted to ignore him and dive into the water, but a familiar scene suddenly flashed in her mind. She couldn't help swimming through the lake water towards him. She saw the guards saving him, saw Chun Baiyun throwing herself in his arms, and saw Miss Chun saying something. She didn't need to listen to know that this master and servant were framing her again. But she was not afraid. If those two dared to provoke her again, she would not show any mercy. The only thing she was worried about was Chu Xiaoyang. That idiot would definitely believe Chun Baiyun's words, and he would definitely cause trouble for her. Now that Mo Chuan was not by her side, and Chu Xiaoyang's martial arts were high, what if he sneaked into her room in the middle of the night? Chun Ning suddenly shivered in her dream. She seemed to see a pair of dark eyes, like the eyes of a ferocious beast, staring at her without blinking, making her feel as if there was a thorn in her back. Who? She abruptly woke up from her dream and turned around abruptly. The moment she turned around, the two sides of the veil suddenly fell down. She could only see a tall and straight figure standing outside the veil. She immediately held her breath. She saw that the figure was just standing outside the mosquito net. The wind was blowing the corner of his robe, but he was standing with his hands behind his back, not moving at all. Chun Ning let out a sigh and patted her chest. Chun Ning. If it was Chu Xiaoyang, the first thing he would do would be to strangle her while she was asleep. She wouldn't even know how she died. Xiaobai, she asked in a probing voice. Xiaobai? What the hell? Chu Xiaoyang instantly raised his brows. Could it be a cat? He did not say a word. Xiaohei. Chun Ning bit her lips. Xiaohei. What the hell was this? Could it be a dog? Chapter 348. Didn't you say that you would never come back if you left? What are you doing here? Leave. I don't want to see you ever again. A pillow suddenly flew out from the curtains and hit Chu Xiaoyang's head. Chu Xiaoyang subconsciously hugged the pillow. He finally realized that the Xiaohei she was talking about was not some random dog or cat, but rather the mysterious black-clothed man. His heart filled with anger as he coldly said, "It's this king." These three words were like ice falling to the ground. A familiar voice entered Chun Ning's ears, and it was like her acupuncture point had been poked. Chu Xiaoyang. It was actually Chu Xiaoyang. She was stunned for a bit before giving a cold laugh. Your Highness, you came to my room in the middle of the night. Did you accidentally come to the wrong room? Or do you want to silence me? She grabbed the coat on the side of the bed and draped it over her shoulders. If this king wants your life, I can do it at any time. There is no need to wait until the middle of the night. Chu Xiaoyang coldly said. Chen Ning rolled her eyes. Then does this mean that your highness has come to the wrong room? This is the Flowing Cloud Pavilion, not the Intoxicated Flower Pavilion. Have a safe trip. I won't send you off. Chu Xiaoyang gave a snort, with sharp mouth. This king did not come to find you to bicker with you. Oh, then why is your highness here? Could it be that you like me and are afraid that little sister by Yun will be jealous, so you came to confess to me behind my little sister's back? She deliberately said this, but she never thought that Chu Xiaoyang would be silent. This was out of her expectations. But then she gave a self-deprecating smile. I know. It must be that after Mimi fell into the water, she must have been whispering to His Highness's Mandarin duck pillow, so His Highness has come to punish me. Tell me, how do you want to help Mimi vent her anger? Chu Xiaoyang calmly said, This king wants to know the truth. Truth? Chen Ning gave a sarcastic smile and said, Isn't the truth in little sister's mouth? You believe whatever she says. Why do you need to ask me? It's unnecessary. If I say something, will you believe it? Chu Xiaoyang was silent for a bit before suddenly saying word for word, As long as you say it, I will believe it. Chen Ning's heart skipped a beat with a dong sound. Then she began to casually laugh. Her laugh was light and faint. If I say that I didn't even touch a single finger of hers, and that she and Miss Chun jumped into the lake by themselves, and I even threw a wooden stool into the water to save their lives, would you believe me? She deliberately used the truth as a lie. Yes. Chu Xiaoyang's reply was simple and straightforward. Chen Ning was stunned. She wondered if there was something wrong with her ears, or if the moon was rising from the west tonight. You believe me? Hee, that's strange. I don't even believe it myself, but you do? She sneered. Do you think this king is a fool, an idiot? Do you think this king is blind or deaf? Chu Xiaoyang couldn't help angrily saying as he ground his teeth. Whenever this woman opened her mouth, she would always ignite the anger in his heart. Aren't you? Chen Ning asked in her heart, but she was afraid of angering this temperamental person, so she didn't say anything. Since your highness isn't stupid, deaf, or blind, then why did you come to my place? This king just wanted to see you. Chu Xiaoyang almost blurted it out, but he forcefully swallowed it back down. You are my Chu Xiaoyang's woman. I came to my own woman's room. What do you think I want to do? If this king tells you that I'm suddenly interested in you, and that I want to... Chapter 349. Chu Xiaoyang, you're shameless. Hearing the meaning behind his words, Chen Ning's face instantly turned red. She instinctively shrank back into bed, but then she realized that this was a stupid move. If he wanted to use force on her, she would not be able to escape from his hands no matter what. Shameless. Chu Xiaoyang smiled. He stopped in front of the bed, just within arm's reach. This king is your husband. Even if I want you tonight, it is a matter of heaven and earth. It can't be considered shameless, right? He calmly said. Chen Ning's nervous heart almost jumped out. She forcefully grabbed her clothes and cursed through gritted teeth. Chu Xiaoyang, you're shameless. Shameless? Chu Xiaoyang smiled again. His mood seemed to suddenly become very good, especially when he heard her angry and anxious voice. Woo, it really was very good. She finally didn't need to use that kind of half-mocking tone to talk to him. He liked this kind of angry her even more. This king has even more shameless things to do. Do you want to know? His voice was frivolous and contained a teasing tone. Chen Ning forcefully bit her lips. If it wasn't for that familiar voice, she would not have believed that the man standing outside the tent that was teasing her was Chu Xiaoyang. This was simply a complete change. This was not the him she was familiar with at all. His eyes were always filled with disgust, and his tone was always filled with anger. Didn't he want her dead? That's right. His head must have been hit by water when he fell into the lake today. It had to be like this. Chu Xiaoyang, if you have something to say, then say it. If you don't have anything to say, then scram. Stop trying to tease me. Chen Ning grabbed another pillow and angrily threw out of the tent. She suddenly understood and was no longer afraid. If he really did not have any good intentions, would he have waited until now? As early as when she was asleep, he could have done whatever he wanted and eaten her up. Chu Xiaoyang grabbed the pillow she threw at him. It still had her warm body temperature and her unique fragrance on it. It was sweet and refreshing. He really was just trying to scare her, but now he suddenly felt excited. It was like there was a flame burning in his body, and he actually had that kind of intention. He forcefully swallowed his saliva and suppressed the desire in his body. This king heard that the eldest princess promised you that on the 10th day of the 4th month, she would invite you to the palace and help you ask the emperor for a decree to separate from this king. Is this true? His voice was calm and did not have a trace of emotion. It was impossible to tell if he was happy or angry. This fellow's news was truly fast. Chen Ning muttered in her heart. She knew that she wouldn't be able to hide this from him, but since he knew, it was good. That's right. Your Highness is truly resourceful. There is indeed such a thing, she calmly admitted, and then suddenly realized. So your Highness came to my room in the middle of the night, just for this? I feel that we can change the time and place to talk. Doesn't Wang Ye feel that the current situation is a bit inappropriate? Chen Ning stroked her hair. It was a good thing the bed curtain was down. She did not want to let this idiot bastard see her in her pajamas. This king doesn't think it's wrong, Chu Xiaoyang shamelessly said. His eyes seemed like he wanted to see through the curtain and see through her. You haven't seen this king's shameless appearance. If you anger this king does not mind letting you see this king do even more shameless things. Chapter 350. Chen Ning's heart turned cold. She knew that the other side was not trying to scare her. She could hear the beast's heart in his calm voice. She gritted her teeth and said, Chu Xiaoyang, what do you want to say? She was too lazy to beat around the bush with him. After beating around the bush, even the way she called him became impolite. But Chu Xiaoyang was not angry. He seemed to like hearing her call him by his name and not calling him your highness in a fake manner. This king wants to know the reason why you want to separate from this king. The reason why you want to separate? Chen Ning never thought that Chu Xiaoyang would come to her room in the middle of the night just for this. This was simply too strange. Although she couldn't see his expression from the tone of his voice, Chen Ning could tell that he was telling the truth. She tilted her head and thought about it. Very good. Since he asked it so bluntly, she wouldn't hide it. There's an old saying that bad marriages are 1,000 years old. You and Chen Baiyun are in love with each other. So how could I be stuck in the middle? I might as well help you two become a pair. Even if I, Chen Ning, am a stinky bun, I still hope that someone will treat me as a treasure in their hands. You don't like me and I don't like you, so we can separate. Bridges go to bridges and roads go to roads. After we separate, we will have nothing to do with each other. She said this without any hesitation and was very straightforward. When Chu Xiaoyang heard this, he felt his chest become heavy and uncomfortable. He said in a bitter voice, You don't have any feelings for this king at all? In the past, it was you who wholeheartedly wanted to marry this king. In the past, it was you who begged your father to let the emperor marry you. In the past, it was you. Without waiting for him to finish, Chen Ning gave a cold laugh and cut him off. In the past, the Chen Ning who was infatuated with you is already dead. She was killed by you and Chen Baiyun. She was clearly speaking the truth, but in Chu Xiaoyang's ears, it was filled with resentment. He was silent. There was a sentence that lingered in his heart, but he could not say it. He struggled to control his pride and spat out a few words with difficulty. He stared at her behind the curtain, and there was a fire burning in his heart. You regret it? Although he did not say it, Chen Ning could guess what he was going to say next. From how he jumped into the lake to save her today, she had already vaguely guessed something. She wasn't stupid, but she didn't want to give him the slightest chance. She didn't want to drag it out any longer and have more dreams. Since he had decided to separate, he had to act quickly. Why? Chu Xiaoyang, after you separate from me, you can make your beloved woman your legal wife. Isn't this what you always wanted? You hate me and hate me. I won't appear in front of you anymore, and you'll have peace and quiet. What you've always wanted, I've returned it to you. What else are you dissatisfied with? This was the first time she had spoken to him in such a calm tone. There was no mockery or sarcasm, but in his ears, it was incomparably heart-wrenching because he knew that every word she said was serious. The calmer her tone was, the more it meant that she didn't care. Shouldn't he? Chew. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.